Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Two salutes. Why not a double salute? Welcome to the weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris, and this is a show where we are going to talk about, sort of got that out. We're going to talk about the latest comic books, the latest comic book news. And I think I'll just go ahead and ink another of my maybe infamous chick tracts. I do Fast and Furious chick tracts lately, but we've got so much fun stuff to talk about. There have been some really interesting comics that came out that I'd like to talk about. Here's just two off the top of my pile. Fantastic Four, giving the origin for the upcoming movie. This was done in conjunction with Marvel Studios. Marvel Comics and Marvel Studios made this together. Beneath the Trees comes back, makes some changes to really update this cat and mouse serial killer type story. Bunch of other interesting books that came out too. It's going to be a good one. Obviously, one of the pieces of news we're going to be talking about tonight will be the Superman, which is doing very well. But let's start off by giving some hellos to the live chat. That's who I'm going to be reacting to today. So I appreciate you all being here. It's going to be a good show. I guarantee it. I promise. This is awesome. Lots of lovely people here. Oh, nice. Somebody says they've got their Trash Movie Bonanza shirt on. Thank you, Philip. Yes, on this channel, Jim Mafood and I, as well as editor Jamie, put together a very big deep dive on Supergirl, the live-action Supergirl movie from 1984. Not so good. Hey, it's my sister. She's back. She's a busy person. Love having you here, Jeans. Look at all these great names. A few of that you might have gotten in there twice. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great time. So, in fact, do I have any other business to talk about? There was a comic tropes that went up last week about All-Star Superman. I would love it if you checked that out. Maybe if you shared that. I would love it if you checked out the Supergirl movie review. And I've already recorded the next comic tropes episode. Just need to edit it, but I've even grabbed about 85% of the images that I'll need. So I do work my day job the next 2 days, but I think it'll be out. I think that I could probably do it on, what's today? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Probably by the end of the day, Thursday, I could finish it and have it up on like Friday or something. That's what I'm going to try. Hey, Izzy. Long time no see. Did I watch The Superman? I did, and I'm looking forward to talking about it with all of you. No spoilers, just going to give some light thoughts, but I'm going to include that in the news. So tell you what, yeah, why don't we get started on the news?
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
There's the news. There's me being a total creep going, hey, I can see Superman. I had fun with that. Too busy? I don't know. Maybe it's just right. No, actually, I'm not doing a dedicated Fantastic Four episode. I know that sort of makes sense, but no, I'm just doing a really fun one that I think people will like. And then maybe I will do something about Fantastic Four. I'm also pretty far along in developing an episode about Ramona Fradon, so that might come too. It's hard to decide. But if you are a supporter of mine on my Patreon, I do an exclusive episode every month for the patrons at the $2 and above levels. And I also give them the opportunity to vote. And so right now they're voting for the July episode, which is based on characters that appeared in the Superman movie. And there's the thumbnail. So it sort of all ties together. All right. Let's see. Let's start with some Superman stuff. There's a casino giving away Action Comics #1. Holy grail for many comic book lovers. This is the kind of comic that if you can afford it, it doesn't matter what condition it's in. You'd want to have that in your collection, I assume. I would. Like if it was a 0.5 or a 1.0 or something and I could afford it, I would definitely get it. But yeah, the first Superman. So what's happening? A place called Yamava Casino in San Manuel, California, is going to be giving away a CGC 6.0 graded copy of Action Comics #1, August 5th. And that's worth about, these days, I would say, like the market value, 400,000. That's what they say. And from everything I looked up, yeah, that's a pretty reasonable estimate of what something like that's going for. But how do you win? I mean, their site lists several ways you could get entry tickets. It'll become a raffle, basically. But you get the tickets, basically, by going to the casino and gambling. And each week you get, like, there's sub prizes. You know, they've got lots of $2,000 worth of chips at our place and this, that, and the other. But if you're in the area and you go there and you play, you get these tickets. You get raffle tickets by gambling. I don't know if that really is anything that I can, in good conscience, endorse. But if you already enjoy doing like blackjack or slots and you're in the area, I'm just going to put it out there. And hey, no matter what, it'll be exciting to see what happens when somebody gets this. Oh yeah, that's right. People are saying that Uno is coming to casinos. Yes, the card game Uno apparently is going to be, they're going to have a championship of it in Vegas. I saw that too. Chris, can I offer you a squirt? If you don't know what that is Jim being funny, as he always is, and referring to a crazy moment in the Supergirl movie with Peter O'Toole. And I'm not going to give away everything or sidetrack it too much, but it really seems like Peter O'Toole was drunk off his ass and playing with, like a water spritzer for the plants, and they just worked it into the movie. So, yes, squirt. It's delightful. It's probably the best moment in the movie in a lot of ways, because the Phantom Zone in the movie, that's one of the coolest parts. All right, getting back to this way to win Action Comics #1. To promote it, maybe you already saw this, but Kevin Smith hosted his Hollywood Babylon podcast at the casino on July 11th. They probably talked about a bunch of Superman stuff. I'm sure he'd seen the movie. And then everybody's favorite Superman actor, Dean Cain, will announce the winner on August 5th at 10 p.m. So, but hey, he is a Superman. He's probably not the best guy, but he was a pretty good Superman, right? He was a pretty good Superman. He got to play Clark Kent in that era just after Crisis, when John Byrne had rebooted things. And he didn't make Clark Kent as dorky and everything. And that was pretty new at the time. I think these days there's sort of a balance of Clark being a little nerdy, and that's an act, but he's not a total doofus like he was kind of in the golden age. But Dean Cain got to sort of play him as like a regular guy. Yeah, I know, Winston. It's crazy. Dean Cain shouldn't need the money by taking a job like that. Terry Hatcher was a delight. She was a very fun Lois Lane. Very fun Lois Lane. Is there anything else I can say about that show? It was like it had a big network TV budget. It was cool at that time to see a comic book character being put out there into the mainstream like that. It was before we got all these movies, but it was also sort of disappointing because he pretty much never went up against a supervillain. And when he did, it was always like, a 5-minute fight. It was very quick. It was very quick. One thing I did like in that era was that his parents were still alive, and that, he had Ma and Pa. I like that. I liked the Superboy show. It wasn't too bad at all. Anyway, going on a tangent, pretty easy. I like talking about Superman. So, Krispy Kreme has teamed with DC Comics. Does anybody have a Krispy Kreme in your neck of the woods? And as long as I'm going to talk about this, let me ask this. What's your favorite donut place? Because I'm trying to think right now if I've got a favorite. I grew up in, the Boston area where everybody just goes to Dunkin'. there's a Dunkin' everywhere. Chicago also has lots of Dunkin' Donuts, and now it's just Dunkin'. But what else is there for donut places? There's Krispy Kreme, there's Dunkin'. Is there any other dedicated like chain? There's a lot of like one-off places. Donut King? I don't know Donut King. That's interesting. I tried the Dairy Queen Kryptonite Blizzard. I miss all this stuff because I just no sugar anymore. The donut shop scene during the Catalyst War. Oh yeah, of course, in Radiant Black. Very nice reference. I like that. I don't know wind shells. I don't know Yum Yum. These are interesting. Comfort Lid. I do remember Mr. Donut. I think Mr. Donut is still around. I feel like I've seen a Mr. Donut internationally. Yeah, if you go anywhere in Canada, Tim Hortons is everywhere. And Tim Hortons is pretty good, but there's not many in America, I don't think. Anyway. What was your beignet place in Nolens? Honestly, the only one I really knew was like the super popular Cafe Du Monde in downtown, but that wasn't a big deal to go to on like, a not weekend day of the week. Is Honeydew a place? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I also saw a Mr. Donut in Japan. Yeah, okay, it is. Yeah, then I definitely saw it there. I just didn't go in it, so that's why it's not clicking. Anyway. We've got some chains here in the Seattle area. We've got Voodoo Donuts is pretty popular. It's just like gigantic donuts with like sugar cereal thrown on top. It seems like lots of things with maple in it. Lots of bacon on donuts up here. What else do we have? We have Top Pot. Top Pot is a chain around here that's pretty darn good. Well, anyway, let's get to the Krispy Kreme ones. So the promotion with DC Comics has 3 themed donuts. If you wanted to eat your favorite superhero, this is one way you can do it. Eat your favorite superhero. Superman donut, unglazed, filled with white cream, icy blue dip. They didn't tell me what flavor. They just said blue dip, and buttercream cloud. And then this is candy and sprinkles. For Batman, it's an unglazed. It's filled with cookie and cream. It's got black chocolate dip ice cream. Not ice cream. I meant like glaze or frosting or icing. Black chocolate dip icing. Jesus. Whoo! I need more caffeine. And the Wonder Woman, that one looks the best to me. It's glazed with raspberry icing and sprinkles. Could be fun. Don't go there. Don't go there. Superman is watching. Anytime you do something naughty, just remember, Superman is watching, and he's going to report that to Santa Claus. Keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole. A damn fine cup of coffee. All right. Moving on. That was just something fun to mention. The Superman actor wants to see himself represented as a Lego, and I don't blame him. I would want that too. So, what am I talking about? Superman actor David Corenswet, apparently huge fan of Lego. In interviews recently, he said when he finished filming, when he wrapped, his wife got him a gift, the Ultimate Collector's set, Millennium Falcon. Huge Lego set. Really, really fun to build. I built it once. My cats tipped it over. Someday I'll build it again. That's a nice present. But then this week, he was in an interview with GQ. It's a video interview. And he said specifically, I want to build Lego with this Superman. I would like to have Lego. Please, Lego, make me a Lego. He also later in the interview brought it up again. And he was like, I want to see Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor and me as Superman in Lego form. And I don't blame him. Somebody from Brazil. Obrigado. So, yeah. This is weird. There are no Lego sets licensed off of this movie. I can only imagine that their last few sets based on Aquaman and Wonder Woman and stuff must not have done well. So Lego wasn't looking to do it. but there's no official Superman Lego sets. Very strange these days for a big budget superhero movie, unless it's like rated R or something, to not have Lego. But there is no Lego for this Superman movie. The closest is that you can get these. You can get digital skins in Fortnite, because Fortnite has like all the different Lego modes. You know, maybe Jim, if you're still watching, maybe you could draw David Corenswet as a Lego man in your style as one of the Fortnite loading screens. You get work as like doing the Fortnite loading screens. Make this guy's dream come true as close as you can. It almost is. Lego does have certain rules. They're not going to, I think, make one based on an R-rated movie no matter what. They won't do any military vehicles. That's like a rule. So there's certain violence levels that they just won't touch. So, yeah. I love Lego. I don't really build them too much anymore because my cats are naughty and they just were breaking them. So for a couple years, I haven't made any, but I really do like them. There's never going to be an official Lego Die Hard. No. They do make certain things. They'll make them based on the comics, to be clear. And I think that there is a set out right now, like a really small one of Superman in a little mech suit with Lex Luthor. But that's technically just based on the comics. It's not based on the movie. David would be honored to be drawn in my style. I can feel it. Jim, you're too good for this world. The Lego Saw collection has a really easy to remove leg.
I want to play a game. You're going to have to walk across all of these bricks. But if you cry out in pain, you lose.
No, I didn't hear that Dad broke down his big ones. My dad, for a while, did get into having fun building Lego sets, big Lego sets. And I was like so surprised that he would get into that in his retirement. But it was something we could talk about here and there. I did not know that he broke them down. But you have to sometimes. You have to. All right, moving on. DC is beginning its plans, a 10-year plan to be clear, for their 100th anniversary. Let me get into that. So, DC released this statement, and they're talking about the San Diego Comic-Con. The DC booth will have a new yet familiar look. In 2025, DC enters the final decade of its first 100 years. With reverence for the past and an embrace of the future, DC plans to celebrate every era of its storied history annually in 10-year increments, starting at the beginning. 1935 to 1945. The 2025 DC booth will feature art and experiences from this first decade of publication. This nascent age was a time of unprecedented creation and saw the birth of not only DC, but of the comic book art form with DC's new fun #1, superheroes, and the DC Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. So basically, yeah, they're doing up through 45 this year. Like next year will be up through 55, etc., until we get to, 2035 will be the 100th, and they will celebrate 2025 to 2035. But that's still going back, at least 8 to 10 years when they do that. I think that that's a fun way to celebrate the next 10 years at Comic-Con, to pay homage to their biggest highs. 100 years is a huge accomplishment. I mean, they're at 90, and that's a huge accomplishment. So, oh, cool. Andy says that he's got the hardback reprint of New Fun #1. That was their first magazine. No, I don't think DC was ever owned by anyone connected to the mafia. I don't think that there's anywhere that like can prove any publisher is. The one that like there's questions about is Charleston. Charleston might have been owned by people connected to the mob that had printers that were, because they owned their own printing, and that, oh, sorry, the light got weird. The printers were also used for things like pornography and allegedly counterfeiting money. Like it made sense to keep it running though. It costs money to slow it down, stop it, and then start it back up. And supposedly, allegedly, I don't have all the details, but allegedly, they sort of got into comics to keep it going. But I never heard anything about DC or their previous owners. What else? Let's talk about Superman, the movie, which is actually not what we're going to talk about, because Superman, the movie, was the 1978 movie title. We're going to talk about Superman 2025. I was close. Harry Donenfeld was Mafia connected? I never heard about that. Really? I guess I need to read up more on Harry Donenfeld. I know who he is and what he did, but I never heard about that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Is it weird that the DC Trinity enters the public domain before they hit that anniversary? That's true. They will be in the public domain. What is it? Something like 98 years after publication. So if we jump forward 10 years, technically, like Marvel could be doing Superman versus Deadpool all on their own, things like that, with some caveats. The ideas go into the public domain, but the registered and copyrighted ideas and execution and design, things like that, that all stays the same. It's just the idea that goes into the public domain. But let me jump back to this movie, because it set some records, which was interesting. It earned $125 million in its first weekend. That was the number that was confirmed today. That's the highest domestic tally for a solo Superman movie. The Superman, Batman Dawn of Justice made a little bit more. But the Man of Steel movie made less. So, yeah, it's the third highest opening this year. I'm trying to remember the other two that were really big. One was Lilo and Stitch. What was the other one that was really big this year? I'm blanking. But it's doing very well. It's doing very well. Worldwide, it made $220 million. That includes the 125 domestic. It was made, budget was around $225 million, marketing $100 million. It means that they're already really close to basically getting close to what they budgeted. You got to cover, marketing, and then you got to cover splitting it with the theaters. But this movie is definitely going to be successful. I think it's, the only thing is, like, if it plunged 70% in week 2 or something because of bad word of mouth, maybe it doesn't, but I don't think that's going to be a problem, because, oh yeah, Minecraft was the biggest opening this year. No, Sinners was great and well reviewed. Jurassic World is definitely going to make more than its money back. It's going to make a profit, but neither of those had an opening quite like Superman. As of today, I just grabbed this today, just going on Rotten Tomatoes, critics are averaging 83% positive. Pretty darn good for, they've been gathering critics' takes for a little over a week. It started around 91%. It's gone down, 83%. That's really high, to be clear. But the audience score is super high, 93%. Audiences like this movie in general. I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'd quite go as far as saying I love it, but you know what? I think it's my favorite Superman movie, which I don't say lightly. I definitely grew up with those Christopher Reeve movies, and I think the first one, even the second one's really good, but the first one really does hold up pretty darn well. Yeah, this is a really cool Superman movie. I'm not going to say anything spoilery about it, just to be clear. Hopefully nobody does in the chat. Don't spoil anything. But what's cool about this is just how comic booky it is in a good way. It starts right in the middle of action, and it made me feel like I was opening up, issue 3 of a 3-part story, that kind of a thing. You're opening it up and some stuff has already happened, and you get caught up in that. Also, in a comic, you can have all sorts of supporting characters. You've got the villains, you've got the soap opera drama stuff with the civilian identity, you've got the citizens that they're protecting, and you've got all the sort of weird super friends and super villains in the world in most things. You've got that in this movie. And I like that it didn't crowd out Superman. It's just that it was there. You know, it was a really interesting world that they created where superheroes and stuff like that, it exists. And generally people are ready to accept all that. That's cool. It's all packed. Superman is in the movie. That is a big spoiler. I liked it a lot. It's got a really positive tone. Superman is a man of action, and you know the big thrust of it is a crisis of conscience. You know, Superman really does face sort of what a lot of celebrities and politicians and athletes can face, where they sort of get canceled over something. And in this, we know that it's not really Superman's fault. Lex Luthor's part of this movie. So it's about him, though, you know, like really losing faith in himself because of a bunch of stuff that's happening external to him, and how he comes to terms with everything that he is. It's really, really beautiful in that way. I think it's the best Superman movie behind Superman the movie. Christopher Reeve is still the Superman movie for me. And you know what was cool about that is Christopher Reeve did get to play Clark Kent a bit more, and you could see him transition between the two a couple times. And some of that was just because of budgetary stuff. You know, they focused a little bit more on Clark Kent and the Daily Planet because you didn't have to do special effects. They were making choices. There's not quite as much Clark Kent in this, but there is tons of great Daily Planet stuff. I would totally watch, I'll just say this, I would totally watch a Jimmy Olsen solo movie at this point. I would also watch a Mr. Terrific solo movie. Not a TV show for these guys. I want a movie. I'm totally serious. I think that would be a blast. I'll never tell. Yeah, and I don't blame anybody that says, hey, the original with Christopher Reeve is still the best. It's neck and neck for me. Right now, I'm sort of thinking that the latest one is my favorite. But I've been thinking about it. There's pluses and minuses. You know, it's not quite a perfect movie, but it's damn good. It's a really cool Superman movie. I liked it. That's my take. You came here for my voice. I've got the microphone, so you will listen to everything I have to say. By the way, EJ's comic Blood and Thunder comes out next week. This coming week, I should say, this Wednesday. Oh, actually, Jim Mafood was in the room, and one of his cover for Post Malone's Big Rig. I think that book also comes out this week, so I'll plug that. Winston, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, Winston Gambro, but you got a shout out on Tyler Crook's last live stream. He was talking about Out of Alcatraz, and he was just talking about how much he liked your design for the intro credits page. So congrats, that's nice. So we have twin mics. All right, moving on. Daniel Warren Johnson on Absolute Batman. Calm down. I put that as the title. He's not the regular ongoing artist, but it's not untrue either. Big Rig, baby. Thanks for the plug. Jim, love some of the covers I've seen you doing. I just saw the one you did for Jonathan Weishak's werewolf book, right? I forget the name of the book right now. Chris says, I've got a story in Images, Dread the Hall H. Oh, yeah, that's the one where it's like horror stories set at Comic-Con. That's a great idea. That's really fun. All right, but what am I talking about with Daniel Warren Johnson? Let's see. So DC has announced all their panels for San Diego Comic-Con. A lot of really interesting ones. I sincerely wish I could go there. That would be amazing. But anyway, various creators working on Batman will be in one panel, and Daniel Warren Johnson surprisingly turned up. So, yes, cul-de-sac, exactly right. Jim did a cover for that. Yeah, vampire, sorry. Dude, Blood and Thunder is a blast. Great world building. Sincerely great. And your character design is impeccable. So, Saturday, it's called DC Comics Gotham City. Panelists include Matt Fraction. That makes sense. He's writing the next arc for Batman. Scott Snyder, of course. Absolute Batman is killer. Nick Dragotta, good. Kyle Higgins is going to be there, my buddy Kyle. He's one of the writers of Immortal Legend Batman. That's sort of a, what would you call it? Tokusatsu take on Batman, a Japanese superhero take on Batman. That looks fun. And Daniel Warren Johnson, who they mentioned will be in the Absolute Batman 2025 annual. I didn't know that there were going to be annuals for the Absolute books, so that could be cool. Moderated by the DC group editor Rob Levin. And there's the room just in case you go, because that would be a really fun panel to go to. I sincerely like all of these creators so much. I don't go to many panels when I go to conventions because that news like pops up on your phone within minutes of the panel ending, right? So it's like, I'm not really getting to interact per se with those creators, but sometimes you need like a moment of downtime, or it's just a time that you can actually see a creator that you really, really admire. So I do get it. I go to some here and there. I would go to that one. That's one I would go to. That's all. I did not see that news, but I do believe you. Absolute Martian Manhunter outselling Hush 2. If that's accurate, that says to me that comic readers today like superheroes still, but they want to see something very new and very different. And they're open to different types of storytelling and different types of artwork. I'm sure Hush 2 is not like a total disaster for sales. I'm sure it isn't, but like the idea of Absolute Martian Manhunter outselling it, that is a weird ass book. My favorite also, just to be clear, I agree. Absolute Wonder Woman is my personal favorite, but yeah. Hush 2, I have ditched. It's not that good. It's not. But it's still, at the end of the day, I would still look at it for the Jim Lee art. I still like Jim Lee. It's the story does nothing for me. So the first Hush was more just sort of a cool way to see almost all the characters in it and to see Jim Lee drawing them. That was the hook more than the story. The hook was all the characters and being drawn by Jim Lee. What else is there for news? This one wowed me. Okay, you guys know that I'm a bit of a G.I. Joe nerd. I'm a G.I. Joe nerd. But all the stuff connected to Cold Slither is really entertaining me. Let me bring you up to speed if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about. 1985. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. That cartoon was going strong. There was one episode, fans really liked it. Cobra had the Dreadnoks, Zartan and his biker crew, dress up like heavy metal, a rock band, and they called themselves Cold Slither, and they had like a hypnotic song in their music. Pretty by the numbers plot, but it was just fun. And I still remember that song. Cold Slither, you'll be joining us soon. A band of vipers playing our tune. Oh, so fun. So fun. So, okay. That's the basis that you just need to know, right? Now, this year, Hasbro and Skybound will publish a Cold Slither one-shot on October 1st. Writer Tim Seeley, who wrote a bunch of different G.I. Joe stuff in the IDW era. Artist Juan Cabal, not super familiar, but his artwork looked good. Hasbro will also promote Cold Slither with a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive release of the 4 characters as G.I. Joe Classified figures. I collect G.I. Joe Classified. This breaks my heart that I won't be able to get it because you have to be at the convention to go to the Hasbro booth. Like that, I've got every single G.I. Joe Classified. I just know that there's just no way I'm going to be able to get that. It breaks my heart a little bit that my collection will have this little gap. But for those that go and those that are G.I. Joe fans, pretty cool. So we get a comic book, we get toys, but here's the craziest part. Hasbro has hired a real band to play a one-night concert during San Diego Comic-Con at a club called Brick by Brick. And they also will be releasing an album with 10 new songs plus the one that was on the cartoon. So that just cracks me up that they have hired like 4 musicians to dress up and play these songs. It's a one-time thing. they're making an album and they have a concert. I just think that's so fun and funny. It's a great promotion. I'm seeing some really creative ideas for promotion at this year's San Diego Comic-Con, because that new publisher, Ignition Press, is releasing Voyeur at a burlesque show. They're going to have tickets to a burlesque show for a sexy comic. That makes sense. And then Hasbro Skybound is putting on a concert. I just think some of this, it sounds like it could be a really fun Comic-Con. There's all these articles about like, oh, this movie studio isn't there and Marvel Studios isn't going to really be there. And this, I'm like, who cares? More room for comics. And it sounds like there's some really badass promotions there. Anyway, I thought it sounded cool. Yeah, they'll probably use it for evil, just to be clear. Okay, yeah. Sorry. They'll also hypnotize you and take your money. Whatever. There's trade-offs, okay? No, they didn't merge. They just both produce this stuff. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Hasbro and Skybound. Skybound is the license holder for the comics. I have seen Cybertronic Spree in person. It was a fantastic concert. If you don't know, they dress up as Transformers and sing a bunch of songs from both the Transformers, the movie soundtrack, but also just sort of 80s songs and some originals. They're really good and they're really fun. It's a great, great cosplay. Really catchy songs too. Really, really fun. A behind the music episode. I want to bring back pop-up video. Can we do a pop-up video based on a Cybertronic Spree and Cold Slither? That would be awesome. If you need keep an eye on Hasbro Pulse. So I love G.I. Joe. I love the figures. I hate the Hasbro Pulse app. I was a Pulse Premium member until very recently. Let me tell you oh my God, this boy, does this irritate me. So I try to get G.I. Joe Classified. It's like basically, aside from getting comics each week, it's pretty much the only thing I collect these days, but I like it. So I'm on their Hasbro's app is Pulse. And if you're a premium member, which is like, I don't know, $50 a year, you get like a 1 hour window that you can pre-order new things before everybody else. And if you want to try to collect it all, that makes sense. And you get free shipping, so I get my money back. The free shipping means that I actually save money. So a few weeks ago, they had some new release G.I. Joes. And I get on the app, and I'm trying to order, and it just will not process. And I keep refreshing. And I did that for about an hour. And it ultimately didn't work. I couldn't get through. And until it finally said something was sold out, and I gave up. Then a couple days later, I could not log in to Pulse on the website or on my app. And I reach out to them and I'm like, I need help. Like, get me a tech person to problem solve. It took a couple days, and then they finally came back and they said, we have deleted your account because we detected behavior that indicates you were a bot. Like a scalper or something. And I go, no, that was your app wasn't working. And I kept trying to refresh it and order something. And they're like, well, we've already deleted it. So now I cannot, and I can't sign up again. I tried. So I'm really upset because that's one of the things that I really enjoyed collecting. And now it doesn't work for me. And they've banned me, and it's their fault. I tried to explain it. They wouldn't listen. Whatever. I ordered one for myself. I'm not even like an army builder. I've never like tried to sell any comics. I mean toys, whatever. Yeah. How dare I try and buy things online? It does suck, right? It's just a story. I just wanted to share it. I'll get back to the news of the week because we've got crazy stuff to talk about. All right. Here's a fun one. A new U.S. tariff on Japan, which will affect the prices for all of the stuff we get from Japan. It is terrible, right? I'm not going to say that they have good customer service. June 7th, Trump administration announced that they are implementing a 25% tariff on all imports from Japan and South Korea, and that will begin August 1st. So these prices, 25% more for manga, collectible figures, clothes, like anything. Movies. The Demon Slayer Infinite Castle movie and the Chainsaw Man Reese arc, those are both coming out in September and October. Apparently that will now cost movie theaters more to license or buy them. Digital releases for streaming shows and manga reading apps, question mark. That's a gray area. Don't really know how that will affect things. Yeah. I love Dandadan. I love Dandadan. It's so fun. It's great artwork. It really annoys me. That's fair. Yes. If it's printed here, and a lot of them do have, you are correct. Just to be clear, you are correct. But there's a lot of stuff that will be coming from Japan. If you get an import transformer or a statue or something, yeah. Then again, just to be clear, last time these kept being threatened, and then they'd walk them back at the last minute, and then so who knows if it comes through. But if it does mean anything you're getting directly from Japan or through a store that takes it from Japan. Yeah, it's going to cost a lot. It's so annoying. So annoying. That's the big thing that will impact. Yes, we will have to say Jane, or really sayonara, to our waifu pillows. So I just wanted to put that out there so that at least if you know that it's coming, if you're into some of this stuff, yeah. There's some objections to the Diamond liquidation sale. What am I talking about? Here's on the left one legal objection that was filed. I'm going to talk about some of this. John Morrow, he's the publisher of Tomorrow's Publishing. They publish a bunch of books like Back Issue, the Jack Kirby Collector, a lot of magazines that do deep dive interviews and history on comic book creators. Anyway, he's filed a legal objection, this guy right here, which is now on file if you look up the court case, to inventory that Diamond Distribution is holding, because he's arguing that it's Tomorrow's, not Diamond, that owns that inventory, that Diamond does not have the right to just sell it, to liquidate it. He also argued that the decision date of July 21st is pretty inconvenient because that's the week that everybody leaves for San Diego Comic-Con if you're a publisher. Dynamite, Fantagraphics, and Drawn and Quarterly teamed up to file a similar objection this past Friday. Also on Friday, Graffiti Designs. They do, of course, more merchandise and shirts and stuff, but that all went through Diamond. Magma Comics, they also filed similar objections. So basically, at issue is this. Diamond claims that they own the comics inventory that is currently in their warehouse, and they've announced plans to liquidate it, sell it for whatever they can get to pay off their bankruptcy bills. But all the publishers say, no, you had that on consignment, and the fact that you went through bankruptcy does not mean that we gave up our rights to this stuff. It's terrible. It's terrible. Your Honor, I don't know a whole lot about comic books, but I will tell you that this sounds like a classical case of distribution dysmorphia. I'll need to read up on that. Can I get this pushed out 2-3 months? Does not. They better not go through with it. That would just be so cruel. I know, it just keeps going. I know. I'll keep going with other news. We've heard a lot about Diamond. What else? This is a similar thing of liquidation. Humanoids Publishing. Look at this cool cover by Peach, by the way. Peach Momoko can do such horrific paintings. She can come up with the creepiest ideas. And I love that there's at least a touch of that in her Ultimate X-Men. But anyway, let's talk about the news part. Associé, I don't know how to do French. I never took it. That was my best try. Or Humanoids, is a French-American publishing house. They've got two sides to it. It's founded in 1974 in France by artists like Mobius and Droulet. They published Metal Hurlant, which is what heavy metal was based on. And heavy metal would often include Metal Hurlant stories translated into English. Really, really cool. So, French publishing trade magazine Livre Hebdo, maybe, has reported that the French side of Humanoids was placed into something called administration last Thursday under what is termed as judicial liquidation. What's that? That happens when a business hasn't been paying its bills. The president of the company said that this only applies to the French half, that there is still the American side of the business that is not having the same issues, and that they intend to continue to publish Metal Hurlant in English. They recently brought that back with a huge Kickstarter. So, yeah, basically, you know, the comics industry has been changing, and yeah, this pretty storied publisher, unfortunately, is having trouble with its bills, but they've published some great stuff. Who am I thinking of? Jodorowsky. All of his cool books he did with like Mobius, and then just continued with his own universe of stuff. Alejandro Jodorowsky. Really, really cool books. That was through Humanoids. Humanoids, in fact, some of those I think were done by Travis Charest. Man, it's so cool. So that's a bummer. Happened with another French publishing company, Nova Graphics, last summer, and now they're back up and running. Okay, well, you know, maybe. Metabarons, that's what I was all talking about, yeah. Yeah, Jim Mafood's doing one of the heavy metal covers. So just to be clear, heavy metal and Metal Hurlant are definitely run by two different companies right now. But I got the last heavy metal because my buddy Tony Moore did a cover for it, and it was a reference to the original cover. It was really, really cool. Oh, that's right. John Cassaday did do a stretch with Humanoids. So they've done some incredible stuff, to be clear. And I just hope that like the back issues and stuff will definitely stay in print and publication, because some amazing history with some of the best artists across Europe and America. Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely know about that. Jodorowsky has been working with Jose Ladron too. They did a comic sequel to El Topo. That guy must be in his, like, is Alejandro Jodorowsky like in his 90s now and still making comics? I gotta know all of a sudden. Hold on, I gotta know. He's up there. He's 96. 96, and he's still making some comics. That's amazing. But he didn't like start making comics in the golden age or anything. Like Jodorowsky is this Chilean, French avant-garde filmmaker. And he basically was going to make an adaptation of Dune. And when that didn't happen, he still formed a really good relationship with Mobius. And together they started taking some of those concepts and turning them into what became his Metabarons universe, books like The Inkle. So, yeah, really amazing history. But he started more in like the 70s or something like that. Yeah, El Topo, The Holy Mountain. And certainly, I think a bunch of people have probably seen the incredible documentary. If you haven't, you've got to see it. It's so entertaining. Jodorowsky's Dune. Really interesting. He got together a dream team of behind-the-scenes people, concept artists, musicians, actors, but it was just too expensive for its time. Yeah. 1966? Okay. Yeah. It's a great documentary, though. Glad you're back into comics. That's all we're going to be talking about tonight. So, what else? Um, this is just a weird story. Sometimes I come across weird stories that are just barely connected to comics, but I'm like, yeah, that's just something fun to riff on. So let's have some fun at somebody's expense that's going to jail. At least he's going to jail in Belgium. The prisons there are a lot more kind than the ones here in my country. But anyway, a young British man was sentenced this week by a Brussels court to 36 months in prison for drug trafficking. Specifically, the man tried to smuggle several kilograms of cannabis, not the worst thing in the world, but cannabis from Bangkok. He was claiming that he did so to pay off a significant tax debt in the United Kingdom. What was that tax debt? His defense sought a suspended sentence, arguing that he owns a comic book shop in London dealing in rare comics, and it's been successful, but not lately. He's £8,000 in tax debt. And so he decided he'd try to smuggle some cannabis from Thailand through Belgium, and he got caught. And he owned up to it. But Belgium ain't playing. They're putting him in prison for 3 years. It's a little funny because, you just go a little, east from there to, Amsterdam or something, you'd have been fine. You'd be fine in the Netherlands, but not there in Belgium. Poor guy, his comic book store wasn't doing so well. He thought he could just move a little bit of marijuana, and that did not go so great. Yeah, he'll probably be being fed like really great food and stuff in prison, better than we eat. Oh man, I totally agree with you that as far as so that's by Spanish creators, but published through like a French publisher. Black Sad is an amazing noir detective story where everybody is animals, but the art and the story twists, just incredible. Just incredible. Imagine how boring of a show this would be. And he owned up to it like right away and explained, because he was like, look, I'll come clean. This is what I was doing, and I know it's wrong, but I'm not going to lie about it. Imagine that as a show. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I did try to take a small amount of cannabis in here. I've got to pay $8,000. You're going to jail. No. Oh, this is actually some really nice food. This is pretty relaxing. Have you ever read Image Comics Proof? I don't think I have. I'm sorry. I don't think I know that one. All right. What else we got for news about comics? How about Jack Kirby getting honored? How beautiful is this? Jack deserves every flower that comes his way. Here's one. July 9th, the corner of Delancey and Essex in New York City was renamed Yancey Street / Jack Kirby Way. So Marvel helped put this together. Marvel and the city of New York erected a commemorative sign celebrating the inspiration that Delancey and the neighborhood gave to Jack Kirby, born, of course, Jacob Kurtzberg, August 28th, 1917. He was born just a block away on Essex Street, and Kirby drew from that whole Lower East Side experience in a wide variety of his comics, his upbringing, being and of course, he created Ben Grimm, the Thing, who famously grew up on Yancey Street. So now they've changed Delancey and Essex to Yancey Street to honor him. He had family there, including his granddaughters, Jillian and Tracy, that each had some really nice words to say about his legacy and how he really would have appreciated getting remembered and honored in this way. I think it's really cool. Like, the place you grew up, like, is going to honor you by naming something after you. Marvel doesn't do good every single day, but this is an instance where it's really nice what they've done. I like it. It's a nice honor. You love to see it. That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah. Oh, is it? It's where you live? You got to take a picture for everybody. Share that. Jack Kirby is American comics, you know? He's just a creative dynamo. bigger than. The more you read comics, the more you start to realize how influential he was. Even if he's not your favorite, you probably like something he created, and you have to respect how he created other artists you love. You know, he's just very, very, very big, very cool. Marvel doesn't do good every day. Well, they don't, but you know, they did here. They did here. That's. Oh yeah, I agree. Money would have been nice. Don't get me wrong. That's what I mean. But it is still a nice thing. It's very nice. And obviously they're doing a little bit of this as promotion for the Fantastic Four, right? But hey, doing a nice thing, engendering some goodwill, making his family happy, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I like it. I like it a lot, and I wanted to share that. I think it's cool. Another quick Marvel thing. This is pretty quick, though, but Marvel is renaming their X-Men comics. Why? Well, in October, Marvel is going to launch an X-Men crossover set in the undefined future. It's going to have 5 new ongoing titles and rename all their other X-Men books, just like they did for Age of Apocalypse in the 90s, to be clear. But the event is called Age of Revelation. The 5 new comics include Amazing X-Men, Binary, Long Shots. What else? There were 2 others. Oh, yeah, Laura Kinney Sabretooth, and I think X-Men Book of Revelation. And then they've renamed some of these others. The one that I was a little surprised to see in here was things like Radioactive Spider-Man, Iron Frost, and Cloak and Dagger. Iron Frost seems to indicate that Iron Man and Emma Frost get back together at some point. I don't know. Pretty weird. Sinister 6. These are monthly titles for at least a couple months. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. If you have to read all of these to get the story, and then it goes on for several months, that's overkill. That's overkill. But who knows? Who knows? I was just amused at some of the titles, to be honest. Some of them are clever. Undead Pool, that's interesting and clever. X-Vengers, that makes me like imagine what that could be. Iron Frost. So there's a couple of them that are clever. Binary is interesting. I mean, that seems to imply it would be a book about Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, but going back to her X-Men ally roots as Binary. So it's interesting. Yeah, Long Shots has me interested. I was like, and the cover for that showed Mojo, so probably a few of them are more tangential. I don't know. If you went back to Age of Apocalypse, you didn't have to read every title to get the gist of what was going on because it took place in an alternate universe. Back then I did. But anyway, it'll probably be something similar. You know, it takes place in a future, a dark future. That's X-Men's bread and butter. Ever since Days of Future Past, how many dark futures has X-Men have? Because they've also got Bishop's future. They've got the future of Cable and Rachel Summers. They've got all these different dark futures. There's a lot. There's a lot. Binary was pretty cool. I also sort of like that era of X-Men. That was towards this tail end of a time when the X-Men had non-mutant allies all the time. You know, they would be hanging out with Misty Knight or Carol Danvers that were really important to their books. And I always thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was important that a book that was sort of about integration has non-mutant characters in that. And it was cool when they would be big Marvel characters. Yeah, that's right. There was the new X-Men future that he did, that Morrison did. They did, I should say. What else? I saw another one that was like something like Days of Future Imperfect or something like that. So yeah, Future Imperfect, right? So there's been, it's just a big part of X-Men. If you don't know, it's a big part. Stevie Hunter was a great character. I agree. Yeah. Like, I like that. I think that all the X-Men books should always have 1 or 2 non-mutant characters that are really important, like work either at the school or their organization, or they're a superhero that's just trying to work with them. You know, Warlock, Binary, Misty Knight. These are examples of people that have at least spent a couple issues with the X-Men. And I like that. Jessica Drew, Lindsay McCabe. Yeah, I like that stuff. I think it helps make the X-Men a little more relatable, that they've got people that aren't just on their team. Just something I like. As long as I'm talking about Marvel, Planet Hulk is returning a little bit. Just a little bit. This isn't too much for me. But believe it or not, it's the 20th anniversary of Planet Hulk. That blew my mind, because to me, that feels like a fairly new Hulk story. But no, Planet Hulk was 20 years ago. So to celebrate, they're doing a one-shot, Return to Planet Hulk. Planet Hulk was a great storyline, by the way. Really different, really cool. Writing and drawing the story are the people that did the initial run. Writer Greg Pak, artist Carlos Pagulayan. And I'm probably mispronouncing Carlos's name. I'm sorry. But yeah, and as far as like the story, Marvel just teased it a little bit. They said that it will involve the Hulk battling robots on Sakaar. Not sure exactly where that's going up. I think a one-shot to honor the anniversary of an important story, totally fair. I don't think that that's milking anything. I think that that's definitely a good idea. I think you should remind people of when you've had a good run in comics. So, even if it's more of like a sales thing, versus critically acclaimed, if it's a beloved fan event. So, but there's a difference between, if they bring back Age of Apocalypse for like 12 issues, that's a lot different than a one shot to acknowledge a 20-year anniversary of a great story. So I like that. Hey, I made some money. Thank you, Steve. Sugar-free Baja Blast on me. I appreciate that. I've got some upstairs. I will consider that on you. Thank you. Want to feel old? Immortal Hulk took place 30 years ago, but it didn't. It took place more like 10 years ago, right? Yeah, not even that. Not even that. The Chad Planet Hulk one shot versus the Incel Hush 2. That's good. You guys have better jokes than me tonight. I like that. All right, moving on. Oh my God, this was such an interesting thing to read this week. But Roy Thomas was accused of stealing credit, which unfortunately in the last couple of years is becoming a little common. Unfortunate for Roy anyway. Website Four Color Sinners posted a large interview this week with screenwriter and comic writer Claire Noto. A lot of people won't remember Claire Noto. She didn't write tons of comics, but she did write some comics, and it was really interesting to hear her take on that. Like, how did you get involved in comics, etc.? Because she's mostly from Hollywood. She's best known in comics as the listed co-writer, along with Roy Thomas, on the earliest issues of Red Sonja. Okay? Hey, here's money for a good old-fashioned American Coca-Cola. I love that brown furry rubbish. Thank you for the support, Joe. I appreciate you. This was an incredible interview. According to Claire, there's one thing she talked about. She wrote the issues full script. She does not know why Roy Thomas was listing himself as the co-writer. She's like, he was the editor. He hired me for the work, but I would write the full script. That went to the artist, and then I'd see my credit as co-writer. And I'm like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Did Hush 2 finish? No, it in fact got delayed. So it's going to finish in October. No, Hush 2 did not finish, folks. Thank you for the support, Steve. You're the best. Appreciate you. There are interviews by the late Frank Thorne, who was the artist on those early issues of Red Sonja, where he said he was getting full script, which helps back up what Claire is saying, because Roy Thomas only worked Marvel method. Give them a plot, let the artist create it, and then go back in and dialogue it. And I think Roy probably added, a little bit of adjustments on the dialogue here and there. But it sounds from Claire's point of view, like she just wrote those issues. And she does not like how she was treated by Roy Thomas ultimately. There's a lot of what she says that sounds like it can be backed up pretty easily. And whatever, she was trying to do something with Red Sonja. Keep in mind, at this point, Red Sonja, the comics version with the J, was a pretty new character. She'd been in Conan a little bit, based on a Howard. Who's the guy that created Conan? Robert E. Howard, something like that. But his creation was Red Sonja with a Y, not a J, and she was a 16th century pirate. So pretty different than a chainmail bikini wearing sword and sorcery type person. So we'll give a little of that to Roy for changing some of that up. But Claire in this interview is fascinating. She said like she was trying to make Red Sonja an interesting character and a badass, and she really disliked all the bikini armor and stuff. She was like, even when, what do you call it? Because when she was originally drawn by Barry Windsor Smith, it was a little more modest, and Frank Thorne really kind of slutted it up. And then she says, a bunch of the cosplayers of the era kind of did that too. Anyway, I really recommend going to Four Color Sinners. It's a long, deep dive interview into her career and what she wanted to do with Red Sonja, and her take on who should get credit. And boy, it's just a really fascinating interview. I just wanted to touch on that. I can't encapsulate it all because it's a big, deep dive. And I think it's a really cool interview. Thank you. Troopers always try to be a homie, not a Roy Thomas. As I liked a lot of stuff that I grew up reading that was credited to Roy Thomas. His Avengers era, with the Kree Skrull War, that was cool as hell. And I liked Conan. Conan was awesome. But then you sort of realize that he worked in a very similar way to his mentor, Stan Lee, where you gave the writer a little bit of an idea. They created a comic. You came in and put the words in, but then you would get paid as the writer and the artist didn't. And Claire said that like she later found out that like Roy Thomas would have a page rate writing of something like $450 a page. And she was getting paid something like $150 an issue to write this stuff. That's just one thing that comes out. I really recommend reading that interview. Really, really interesting stuff. And it's free. It's not behind a paywall or anything. All right, moving on. Wait, let's see. Oh, I guess I might as well talk about that before I move on. So the Red Sonja movie trailer came out, and I see some people saying, hey, this looks like it could be fun. And I get that. I feel like it looks cheap and looks sort of like a direct-to-video type movie that I'd see in like the early 2000s or something. I don't know. It didn't really work well for me. I hope it is good. I just wasn't wowed by the trailer at all. I saw that and went, uh-oh, spaghetti-o. It wasn't amazing. But some people think that, it's a little corny, but it could be fun. And they were like, the last Conan movie with Jason Momoa kind of looked like this. And there was like Kull the Conqueror with Kevin Sorbo, and that was goofy, but it was still fun. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it will be like that. I don't know. There is one weird thing. Towards the end of the trailer, Red Sonja goes up against a monster. And I swear to God, that is just flat out the design of a big enemy in the manga Berserk, a character called Nosferatu Zod, this huge sort of beast with horns. I mean, it just looks like him. And I was like, how can they do that? But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, the slow-mo backflip she does. I'm like, that would break your knees. She does it from like 3 stories up. Anyway. No, that was a pretty bad movie. People forget that first movie, it has Conan in it, but he's not playing. It has Conan in it. It has Schwarzenegger in it, but he's not playing Conan. He's playing a character like Conan. Thank you for backing me up. It just looks flat out like that design. I was like, huh? Maybe it's good. Maybe it's fun. I'd like it to be, but the trailer didn't win me over. All right. Last piece of news, and then I'll do some comics reviews. Comic and graphic novel sales are up, and it's looking pretty nice. So I'm getting this from ICV2.com. Milton Greep, longtime analyst and distributor, and he knows his stuff. Milton Greep wrote a big analysis this week on comic sales and trends for the year ending 2024. Posted that this week. Total comics and graphic novel sales to consumers in the US and Canada were around $1.94 billion in 2024, and that's up 4% from $1.87 billion in 2023. Keep in mind that 2021 and 2022 were pandemic years that really boosted readership. Dipped only a tiny bit in 23, climbing a little bit back up again. That's impressive. You would expect it to possibly curve down back to closer to these 2020 numbers. Not yet. No, it's actually up a little bit, which is very promising. The comic book format had a good year. Dollar sales up 12.2% over 2023. $460 million in sales for the periodical format. So that was a 15-year high for the periodical format itself. Graphic novels were down 1.4% in the book channel, but they were up 13.3% in the comic store channel. And that was it. So, congrats to comics for having a heck of a great year. I was surprised. I did not expect comics to sort of increase again this year, but I was happy to see it. Bear with me. I'm setting up a second camera so that we can review some comic books that came out this week. Yeah, good job, comics. Exactly right. All right, let's do some reviews.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
I don't know. I don't know. Right. Bear with me. I'm going to set aside some of this art. We'll do that later, and we'll just sort of chat about whatever. But I'm going to do some mini reviews of comics that came out this week. I'm just adding an extra camera here. Let's see. Yeah. Do it like that. Oh, you know what? That zoomed in a little too much. I'll zoom out a little bit. There, that's better. What do we got this week? Might as well just start with what happens to be on top. So, there was a Fantastic Four comic that came out this week that's definitely different in that if you go to the credits at the back, it credits the Marvel Comics people that worked on it, like Matt Fraction and Mark Buckingham. But it also says that a bunch of people from Marvel Studios worked on this, like Matt Shackman, the director, the usual producers of these movies, like Kevin Feige and Louis D'Esposito. Yeah, and they've got like designers, like people that did some of the concept art for the movie. They happen to credit like the cast. But what is this? This is basically supposed to be set in the upcoming movie universe, but give you their origin, which is their comic book origin of going up against the Mole Man, but in a movie way. So we get to see them sort of get their powers. We get to see how they interact with each other, which is very comic booky. It's very accurate. Oh, there's also like fake ads within it, as though this came out in the 60s. Like this is a fan club for Johnny Storm. That's amusing. Maybe a little too text heavy for like what I remember ads from 60s, 70s comics being, but it's a funny idea. And yeah, by the way, Mole Man here is definitely based on the actor that they hired. What was his name again? It's in the back here. Paul Walter Hauser. Paul Walter Hauser has been in a bunch of stuff lately. He was on Cobra Kai as a guy named Stingray. He's the chief of police, I think, in the next Naked Gun movie. He's done all sorts of stuff. He's actually does also pro wrestling these days, which is just bonkers. But yeah, we get their battle against Mole Man, which is very much based on the original Fantastic Four #1 by Stan Lee and Steve. I was about to say Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, of course. Excuse me. And the only differences are, that it sort of knows where a lot of these characters end up eventually. So Johnny Storm, for instance, is not just tagging along. He's a flight engineer. And, you can already see the romance a little bit, like hints of it between Reed Richards and Sue Storm. And you see that Susan Storm is also a doctor of archaeology, which she becomes in the comics. It's cool. There's another fake ad, by the way, for the Fantastic Car. It's different. Look, this doesn't really give you anything that you need to go into the movie, but it is fun if you know some of the comics history, and if you want to know their origin, because they're probably not really going to address it in the movie. It's not that important. You get it here. And it does feel like a movie version. It's based on their look and their costuming and the world that you've seen in the trailers. I liked it. I didn't absolutely fall down loving it per se, but it did feel very much like an adaptation of an MCU thing. That's what it felt like. It felt authentic, and I liked it. The biggest reason I want to see this movie is how the Thing will shave his rocky beard. Just to be clear, Thing has grown a beard in the comics before. He can grow a beard. That is comics history, and I don't know how he shaves it, but he can. It was fun. You know what? As long as I'm talking about Fantastic Four, let me bump up this. This was an excellent Fantastic Four comic. So while it says #1 there, just to be clear, this is a jumping on point that's very easy, but the guy that's writing it, Ryan North, has been writing Fantastic Four for between 2 and 3 years now. And it's one of my favorite Fantastic Four runs, because what he does is every issue, at most 2 issues, introduce a scientific problem, and it focuses usually on 1 to 2 members of the team or their family, sometimes all of them, coming up with a scientific solution to something weird. So, it gets to the core of what Fantastic Four needs to be, which is a focus on family and a focus on weird science. I think that those are the 2 things that make Fantastic Four most unique, and it is really locked into that idea. Well, this one is starting with a slightly new premise that just is a good jumping on point, which is that Dr. Doom, their big enemy, is fighting them all, and he sends them all through time to different places in time. So they are separated, and they have to find each other. And they, one thing that I love about this, Reed Richards, super smart guy. He anticipates a lot of problems, not everything, but he anticipates some stuff. And he has this idea. He said, if we ever become separated, there happens to be this rock that just through coincidence, it never really got, built over or knocked down or anything. So if you are thrown through time, write down your coordinates, the year and the time that you came across that, and whoever's the furthest in the future will have to figure out a way to come back and save you. But where are they sent? Johnny Storm is sent back to when the Earth is still cooling. There's no life on the planet. There's barely any oxygen. And his immediate problem is he has to figure out a way to make oxygen with his powers. The Thing falls down into prehistoric times where, he's tough and all, but he's overwhelmed by all the dinosaurs. Reed Richards falls into medieval times where he's trying not to mess with history and create a problem. And then Sue Storm is super far into the future when there's basically no life left on Earth. It's a cool thing where it puts each of them into a really tough situation. And you're like, look, do I think this book is going to kill off a Fantastic Four member? No, But I also cannot guess how they're going to figure out their way to solve this problem. Even just the little problems for this issue, like Johnny figuring out how to create enough oxygen to survive, is cool. And what he comes up with, I'll just talk about that one instead of talking about all of them. One thing he can do is melt certain metals and create an oxidation process to get some oxygen released from certain metals. That's a really cool scientific solution. So anyway, it's fun. Reed Richards gets thrown into the medieval times restaurant where he has to get a job serving chicken legs. It's really good. It's what I've always wanted out of a Fantastic Four comic. But I will say that one thing I've said is I like Fantastic Four a lot. The artists that they've got on it are fine, but they've danced around a bunch. There hasn't been anybody that consistent on it. Humberto Ramos isn't necessarily my favorite, but I like his work, and I think he's a step up, and I think he's a good fit right now because he can sort of lean into some of the more super heroic stuff and allow the story to focus a bit more on the science and the family type aspects. It's a great balance. And as far as a superhero ongoing comic goes, this is one of my absolute favorites. Definitely recommend it. Easy jumping on point. Nice thing about this run that Ryan North has been doing is almost any issue is a good jumping on point because while there is little bits of continuity, it's mostly episodic. And I think that works so well. So well. It's really good. If Ryan North wrote Waiter Read, it would be awesome. I didn't read Strange Academy. I heard good things about it, but I did not see that. Anyway, it's a good comic. It really is. I hope that you consider checking it out. Let me put off Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees Rite of Spring, because this is, all things considered, a pretty big comic, and I have a little bit more to say, whereas the rest of what I'm going to say is a little briefer. I'll talk a little in depth about this. This is sort of the idea to me of a sleeper hit, or at least a sleeper cool book. Trinity, daughter of Wonder Woman. What is it? It's just fun. It doesn't bog down in anything. All it is, let me see if I can explain it easily. It's not the easiest thing, but it doesn't matter too much. But 3 versions of Trinity, who is Wonder Woman's daughter, have all had this weird time crisis. Okay, so there's slightly more than toddler Trinity, maybe 14-year-old Trinity and 19-year-old Trinity. Okay, and they all think that the older one is a little cooler but also annoying, and they have a funny interaction. They're like sisters. They bicker like sisters, and they're sort of adoptive brothers in a sense. John Kent and Damian Wayne have been turned into corgis and sent through time. So they each have to go and rescue a corgi. In this, we get the middle Trinity, and she goes into Gotham City and teams up with the doomed Jason Todd Robin and gets a little bit of a crush on him. But she also knows that Jason Todd will one day die. It's delightful. It is hilarious. By the way, this is mostly a comedy comic, and the art by Belen Ortega is hilarious. It's cool sometimes. That's a cool pose and stuff. That's standard superheroic stuff. But she'll also do some really great gesture, and like this, where she's laughing at Robin because of his costume. He's trying to be all cool and dark, and she's laughing at his booties and his little cod piece and stuff like that. And look at the gesture. It's hilarious. This book is fun and funny. This is a funny book. Hey, look at that. Thank you. Howdy, Chris. Truly hope you and Chrissy are doing well. To celebrate Superman, I would love to hear about your 3 favorite Superman comic runs. I haven't been reading a whole lot of more recent Superman. I heard that Philip Kennedy Johnson's run was really, really good, but I didn't read that. So I'd have to say more like Dan Jurgens. Boy, this is really tough. I've got my favorite comic book Superman stories, but not always runs. Well, All-Star Superman is the number one for me. All-Star Superman, Dan Jurgens in the 90s, and John Byrne in the 80s, right after Crisis. Those are my top three. But yeah. The title of the issue is A Corgi in the Family, riffing on A Death in the Family. Nice call out. Super Tots of the Silver Age. This is definitely Silver Agey in some ways, but with a modern art style and modern dialoguing. Folks, it's great. It's really good. The art is good. The humor is good. And even like even though it's funny and stuff, there's a lot of sweet character development. You know? Just Jason trying to be cool, but not being the smartest of the Robins. And Trinity being a little enamored of Jason's capabilities and stuff. It's great. Look at how cute this is, too. Like when they have like these bickering moments between the three Trinities that basically act like sisters. In fact, just to be clear, the youngest one calls it out. She goes, "You know, Super Corgi Puppy, I like having sisters. They're like brothers, but meaner." It's pretty great. Oh, yeah, Birthright was good, and so was Secret Identity. Those are both good, too. But I still stand by the three that I said. It sure is a Corgi, but it's technically Damian Wayne transformed by accident into a Corgi. So, doesn't matter why, doesn't matter how. All that matters is three versions of Trinity going through time to rescue Corgi puppies. So the stakes are important, but not so important that it feels like doom and gloom. It's really... I just didn't expect to like it as much as I do. I really like this. This one I'm pretty lukewarm at best on. Whereas this one was one I was kind of looking forward to. I like the Ultimate Universe. The idea of Miles Morales visiting all these different characters sounded cool. In practice, last issue was basically him meeting Spider-Man of the Ultimate Universe. This one is him interacting with only two members of the Ultimates, Wasp and Ant-Man, as well as Black Panther. And then next issue promises to basically be the Ultimate X-Men. And he's just trying to rescue his sister. It's fine. I really don't feel like it's doing anything to change the status quo of the Ultimate Universe or of Miles Morales. It feels like Miles, having been from the original Ultimate Universe, as well as, although he doesn't really remember that, to be clear, as well as the ultimate villain of the Ultimate Universe, the Maker. He reshaped the Ultimate Universe to not have many superheroes. He's trying to not let any exist. But Maker and Miles were from the same original Ultimate Universe. There could be drama there. It's not explored. It's... I will agree with that. I did enjoy this issue more than issue 1 because issue 1, with him meeting the Spider-Man, didn't amount to much. In fact, like, it was kind of jokey, and like it mostly was all of the Spider-Men, because in the Ultimate Universe, Peter's son is also a Spider-Man. Gonna be Venom, I think. But yeah, like, they just were like looking for Miles' sister by swinging around Manhattan and looking in random windows. And I was like, what kind of a strategy is this? This makes no sense to me. And it was boring. Yeah, thank you for the super chat. And I've always heard that Philip Kennedy Johnson really made his name with the War World arc. I got to read it someday because I've heard so many good things about it. Right. It set things up. it's playing fair with its storytelling. It's just not doing anything that interesting with it right now. It's just a thing. I can't really recommend it. I'm a little curious where it goes, but I don't feel like it's going to change much. I can't really recommend it. I do recommend the latest Radiant Black. Somebody help me. This cover, that's an homage to a famous cover of some sort, right? But I can't remember. Is this an homage to like Teen Titans? Is this a Rob Liefeld New Mutants cover? It's something like that, but I cannot remember what this is an homage to. And I would love to know. I would love to know, but this feels like a direct homage. The pose rings a bell, but not enough of a bell that I've been able to go, oh, it was that. It was something around the 80s or maybe even the early 90s, but I can't remember. But anyway, the story is a blast. Yeah, I feel like maybe it was a Teen Titans Deathstroke cover. Well, that's interesting. The lack of feet, says Liefeld. Yeah, this character's feet are kind of covered up. I cannot remember. It just looks familiar to me, and I feel like they're homaging something there. Oh, is it Judge Dredd? I do remember Judge Dredd having that. Specifically on the was it Ego Publishing when they brought it to America, and might have been Brian Bolland that did the cover. That sounds familiar. I suppose in some ways this is a little bit of a classic pose, like the La Pieta homage, which is basically what I did on my Vampirella cover. Specifically, I was referencing, famous covers like George Perez and John Byrne. But yeah, I found Radiant Black 32 in the wild today. I was hoping to find a copy, but I didn't expect it to happen. That was the one that I did the backup in, right? 32? Because now we're at 35. Anyway, Radiant Black. Here's what's cool about this. Radiant Black is going up against a new tech-based villain, okay? It's really cool, though. He wants to kill Marshall, the guy that's Radiant Black, because he comes from an alternate timeline, which we've seen in the past in this, where Marshall made a mistake and a lot of people in Chicago died from this alien invasion. He's basically, along with some other people, come into the main timeline because that timeline collapsed, but he blames Marshall for that. So he's a hypocritical villain, and I like that. But he's capable. He's got like military background. He's got good technology. But I like that flawed motivation of, I blame you because in my world, you messed up and you killed like my family and like lots of other innocent people. And now I want revenge on you. But it's not, even though, the timeline bisected in the modern day, like only a couple months ago, and then they solved the problem and stuff. So this Marshall has the capability of making that mistake, but he didn't. And it's blaming someone that didn't make that mistake. I like it. I like that, Radiant Pink is sort of acting like his sidekick in this. There's some good action, good sci-fi, but I mostly like the villain in this. He also like specifically targets Marshall's mother, and like tries to romance her. Doesn't quite work, but he comes like to some like a Y or something like that, and tries to romance her to screw with the hero. I like that kind of personal connection. I like it. The worst thing about him is the hypocrisy. That's what stood out to me. I go, but I get like how you could be so mad and you couldn't really get revenge on the original guy because he doesn't exist. It's just cool. Dude, I do hope that Nathan comes back in this comic in a big way. If you guys don't know, there's two friends in this, Nathan and Marshall, and they've both had the Radiant Black powers, but only one can have it. And right now it's Marshall, and that's interesting. But I like Nathan as a character. I find him really interesting. No, here's what's dark about that. He killed his own devil. He killed his devil to take over his life. So how flawed is this guy? He's crazy in a way. He's crazy. Yeah. Anyway, very good, very cool story. I would say not at all hard to jump in. Right around issue 31 or 32 is where like sort of this storyline starts, but this is like fleshing out the bad guy's motivation. And so this issue 35 is also a pretty easy one to jump in on. And I gotta say, they've got a good set of artists on this. It both Eduardo Ferragato and Marcelo Costa both draw some of the pages in this. Sometimes I do forget who is who. I forget, but I think I slightly prefer whoever drew these pages as compared to these pages, but it's not so radically different that I ever find anything jarring. They work together quite well. They do when they need to. Sometimes that like one will draw an arc, one will draw an issue. They both draw on this book quite a bit, but sometimes they need to share duties to keep it coming out on time. They do a good job. It's rock solid. It's rock solid. And I cut a book, from Image that's creator owned, that has a small team working on it. I cut it a little more slack than what I expect out of a Marvel or DC, where there's a budget behind it and they should be able to hire the absolute top talent. So I expect the absolute best. But what I get in a creator owned book is different ideas and passion. And that carries a lot of weight with me. That carries a lot of weight. The hypocrisy bit was Norm Macdonald's joke about Bill Cosby. Oh, that's right. I remember. You know what bothers me the most is the hypocrisy. Well, that and also the anyway. I miss Norm. Did I ever tell you guys that I met him back in the 90s? That I actually opened for him? That was a long time ago, but when I was in college, I did stand-up comedy. That was a long time ago. All right. Let's wrap this up. Of course, Transformers continues to be exceptional. I'll predict this. Transformers is very likely to end up in my top 10 comics of 2025 at the end of this year. Daniel Warren Johnson's run only has 2 more issues to go after this, but that's still like more than half the year, and it's great. What makes this one great? Heroes making sacrifices to help each other. There's some really wonderful stuff here where some of the goodness that they've done, that Autobots have done, is getting repaid. There's a doctor who, his hospital was saved by Optimus Prime and the Autobots from an attack by Starscream early on. The Autobots are on the back foot right now. They are getting wrecked by the Decepticons now that Megatron is back. But he's gathered a bunch of other people, and they come up with like trailer trucks, and they're like, come on, Autobots, like, we've been looking for you. We know you're in trouble. Transform into your cars, get on our carriers. We're going to try to like hide you. And, that puts them at risk, but the Autobots are so beaten up that they're like, Optimus, we need help. Like, we need to accept this help. There's sacrifice, like Cliff Jumper is on Cybertron, their home planet, and the Autobots have created a portal back to Earth, but only enough energy to send one back to help. And they're saying like, Cliff Jumper, you need to go. You're more innocent. You want to be with Optimus. We're going to send you back. But he knows that what could protect his human friend Carly and the planet Earth is the new Transformer they've created, Shredhead, created out of Carly's van, a new Transformer. And he does like a judo flip to throw Shredhead to Earth. He's like, if anyone can really help Carly, it's not going to be me, it's you. It's all about sacrifice, and that's very noble. I won't get into it too much, but Spike does something really noble to help the Autobots in this. And so what's cool about this is you care about these characters because they're good. They're making good choices. Ultra Magnus is an Autobot who is getting experimented on by the less savory people in the U.S. military. But Doc, who will one day, be a G.I. Joe, I assume, he's canonically a G.I. Joe, but not in this at this point. He sets Ultra Magnus free because it's the right thing to do, even though he's going to get in a lot of trouble for it. Jorge Corona's art, gorgeous to look at. Can draw robots, can draw people, can draw vehicles. Dynamic. Can't wait to read the whole Daniel Warren Johnson run back-to-back trade paperbacks. It's been fantastic. 2 years, no dips in quality. I love it. I love it. It has made me come back to loving Transformers like I did when I was a little kid. I went through a period where I didn't really care about them, didn't really get the toys, saw the movies, didn't really like them. But as a kid, I love Transformers. So I've always been open to it. This has brought me back to like loving what it can be. Loving it. Anyway, some really cool stuff. And so there's only 2 issues left. And they've said that Seattle and Tacoma has been absolutely annihilated by the Decepticons now. So humanity is preparing to have a last stand in Chicago, Dan's hometown. So that's what we're going to build up to. Next issue, we'll probably put the Autobots in like the worst position we've ever seen. And then I assume in 24, they'll somehow come back in a really cool way, but who knows? Oh, what Cliff Jumper is doing is specifically called the monkey flip in pro wrestling. That would be it. I love it. Yeah, I also can't wait to see how he closes out his arc. It's been strong. It is a little sad to think there's only 2 issues left. I'm glad to see that Dan Mora is going to step in on art. I love Dan Mora's art. I think Robert Kirkman will probably take it in some cool directions plot-wise. Plus, he does know the G1 lore, and that's the version he's closest to, so it should work. But no matter what, this has been an all-time great comic book run. And I wouldn't have expected it on a licensed comic of any kind, but it's been damned good. Damned good. All right, let me talk about the last comic that I read this week, which I thought was great. It's great. So, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. If you don't know what it was originally a mini-series where there's a town full of animal people. Let me just show you, like, here's like a duck lady, right? Or who else? There's like a bear person, a pigeon person, dog. Doesn't really matter. They're animal people, okay? Obviously looks pretty nice too. Like, open line art. Not like dark or anything, like really kind of cute in its own way. But it is talking about a serial killer. And the original series, I don't want to sort of spoil it or anything, but how much of this can I explain? I'm thinking things through. Samantha is a bear, and I don't think it's unfair to say that she lives in a small town and runs a what do you call them? Like a hardware store. And she's secretly a serial killer. But she doesn't kill in her hometown because she doesn't ever want to draw attention. She's very careful. If you've ever seen Dexter, it's that kind of like, a very careful, methodical serial killer. And so we're not quite rooting for her, but we admire that she has these rules and how careful she is in a way. And the reason it's okay to tell you that she's a serial killer is we learn that right away in the original miniseries. The problem is there's another killer in it, and that creates all this extra attention. And how does she keep herself hidden? But that also took place in, we'll just sort of say, a 1980s sort of era. Now we're telling a new story, and it's a lot closer to the modern day. We're specifically following this duck lady who lives a very bleak, empty life. She only works to stay alive. Every waking moment of her life is spent trying to find her missing brother, who's been missing for like over 10 years. Okay? We know that he was killed in the original series. He was just a victim. There wasn't much of a story to it. But now we're following her life, and she just spends every waking moment keeping in touch with every police precinct in the area, being on like Reddit forums, not Reddit specifically, but forums like that, doing her own research, just working at a copy shop because it not only does it pay the bills, she uses it to like run copies of her missing brother. Have you seen him? That she won't, you know, her coworkers like her well enough. They invite her out and she's always like, no, because she dedicates her whole life to finding her brother. And then she gets a tip to come to the town where Samantha lives, that she might find some answers there. Very interesting. I don't know where it's going to go. I love that. I love that I don't know where this is going to go. But what's cool about this is definitely the writing, in the sense that it creates a lot of tension. You're constantly worried about people being discovered and people being killed, you know, and nobody feels very safe. Nobody feels, no character feels like untouchable, even the main characters. And this is specifically commenting on how different things were and would be for any kind of criminal once the internet comes out. And you've sort of got this whole group of people thinking about one problem at a time. And it is one of the better parts sometimes of the internet, which has a lot of problems that I will complain about to no end. But it can connect a lot of people into a group to solve a problem. That would totally change things if you were trying to be quiet, even if you were in a small town. The fact that now all sorts of people could be working on the same problem at the same time. So anyway, at first I was like nervous because the first comic got a lot of acclaim, and rightly so. It's a taut thriller. Great character work, cool art, way more grisly than you'd expect at first based on like how things are drawn, which just helps surprise you a little bit more. But it was great. So like a sequel. Ooh, do we need a sequel? That is definitely something I was like, geez, I don't know. I don't know about a sequel. But it totally upends its premise in a couple different ways. We're focusing in issue 1, at least, on a completely different character, still in that same world. And we're saying, what can technology change in this dynamic and in this situation? Whoo. I like that too. She is sympathetic, and it's a very sad character, you know, because she's given up so much of her life to find her brother. She's got a very sort of empty life, and that's sad. That's really sad. Yeah, totally excellent. Just amazing. Problems on the internet. I don't know. I don't know whether this is like a 4-issue series, a 6-issue series. I don't really know. And in a way I don't want to know. I liken it to this. I like horror movies and thrillers. If something looks like it has some, like a good premise or a good cast, good writer or director for horror, I like to know as absolutely little as possible. I don't really even want to watch trailers. I want to go in without much expectations, and I want to be surprised. And I kind of want to be surprised by this too. So, you know, if somebody tells me, hey, it's a 5-issue series, fine, that's okay. But in a way I don't want to know necessarily, because that might make me anticipate certain pacing decisions. When I know that something is going to be a 6-issue series or, you know, just a 1-issue series, my mind can really break down the act structure and the arc, and sometimes I can predict things. And I'm not trying to brag at all. I'm just saying I focus on a lot of storytelling. I've turned it into a career. So I think about it on a meta level a lot. And sometimes that means that, unfortunately, I can very easily guess where certain things are going. Unfortunate in the sense that, okay, now it's not a surprise. I want to be surprised. I want to be surprised. But if you've ever liked, I'm trying to think of some things that I could compare it to. Certainly the few early seasons of Dexter, there's something to that. If you liked the cat and mouse chase between Light and L in the manga or anime Death Note you'd probably like this, because that's like very much like people trying to feel each other out and suss each other out. Even if you just like a good, well-written crime show like Columbo or Luther, you might like this too. If you like those things where, you've got really smart people knowing that they could either figure something out or get caught, and they're just thinking that through. Those are all things that I would like say, yeah, then you might enjoy Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. So I think a lot of people might look at this and go like, boy, talking animals, like that part doesn't interest me. But that is such a comic book thing. We have had comic animals literally from the first days of comic books. And it continues to be relevant, and it continues to be a useful way of portraying characters. We've seen it in Ninja Turtles. We've seen it in Black Sad. We've seen it in a million different things. Scrooge McDuck. It can work really well in comics. It can work really well because this is something I get from Scott McCloud in Understanding Comics. He says a lot of times in comics, and manga definitely does this a lot. If you leave the line work for the character kind of open, it's very easy to project yourself onto that character because it's not so specific that you're like, that ain't me. If it's open enough, you can see, you can relate somehow. You can just project yourself onto a smiley face, whereas you're not going to project yourself onto, I don't know, a famous painting like the Mona Lisa. You know what I mean? And so talking animals are sort of open line work enough that you can do a little of that projection. And it's very relatable. Yes, just so that you know, even though there are talking animal people in this world, there are also animals. There are in Mickey Mouse and stuff too. Are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles furries? No, they're themselves. Anyway, yeah, it's exceptional. So, out of all of these, what was the choice for Book of the Week? A lot of options here. I would say that the best comics this week, the ones that I enjoyed the absolute most, and it's nothing against any of the others, really, but I really would say anybody could enjoy these 4 books: Beneath the Trees, Transformers, Trinity, and Fantastic Four. To be fair, these are both superhero books, which aren't everybody's cup of tea. And a licensed book about a toy isn't everybody's cup of tea, although I think that all of those are exceptional. But this is my choice, either way, for Book of the Week. Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rite of Spring. I almost said Last Rites. Feels thematically like it would work. It was a good week for comics, but this is the one that I liked the most and that I would recommend to the most people. Hopefully I've said enough about it that you can make up your mind whether it's the kind of book that's for you or not. Some great comics. Yeah, I think Dexter versus Richard Scarry is a very easy way to describe it that is very fair and accurate. Really is. Let's do some art. I'll ink the latest. What do I call it again? Fast tracts. I'll ink a new fast tract tonight, and then we can just talk about whatever. A lot of these shots from this point forward are going to be my head down here like this, and me just sort of chatting and drawing kind of slowly, but we can talk about anything now. Let's see. You introduced me to Black Sad, and I ended up buying the first 3 comic book albums. Thank you. Oh, that's really nice. I love hearing when somebody listened to a recommendation and ended up liking it. That makes me very happy. I think it's a really strong comic. It's a really good one. Yeah, I've heard that the game is pretty good, but I've never played it. Oh, Black Sad. I mean, you have to be into detective stories and noir specifically, but it's really cool. All right, bear with me. I'm just going to first start off by inking a little bit of the lettering stuff, get that busy work out of the way, and then I can do some of the more fun brush and technical work of drawing characters. I hope I spelled the names right, but whatever. Okay, so the first thing I'll ask, though, is like sort of a topic to start moving forward. What comic did you pick up this week that you like the most, especially if it's one that I didn't happen to cover just now? And then we could probably talk a little about things like Superman and stuff, non-spoilery. But first, let's talk about the comics that came out this week. What do people recommend or not recommend that just came out that's new to them? Always curious to hear about that stuff. Bear with me. I'm going to take a quick guzzle of coffee. Let's see. Due to the flooding, 3A in Cohasset was underwater, as was the highway in Braintree. Oh my goodness, I didn't hear about that. Gene, are you still in chat? You didn't tell me about that. I bought Alien Salvation hardcover based on last week's comments. Very cool. Absolute Superman was good, but I think the first arc was stronger. Yeah, I liked it. I sort of started falling out of Absolute Superman, but there's another recommendation for it. Mouse Guard has been good. Assorted Crisis Events. Oh, did issue 3 come out? Or is it up to 4 already? I've lost track. I've lost track. Four. Everybody says 4. I read Toxic Avenger 1 and I liked it. Has a nice art style that complements the world. Yeah, which cartoonist does that? I flipped through it. It's good. The latest Ultra Mega. I love James Herron's art. The story is bizarre, like the most bizarre Grant Morrison stuff, so I don't always fully feel like I'm getting it, but I do like the art in that a lot too. Yeah, totally agree. The DC Finest anthologies, sure. Kryptonite Nevermore. Oh yeah, was that where Superman finally gets over being susceptible to kryptonite, and he even like has the scene where he takes a bite out of it when a villain puts it in his face? Yeah. Dennis Camp is doing pretty damn good these days. I got Absolute Wonder Woman and I loved it so much. I love that book too. Also got Superman Birthright. We've been reading some good comics lately, that's for sure. Right. That's what happened. It all turned to lead. Interesting that they decided like that they would stop using kryptonite. I can sort of understand that because it could be a crutch. In fact, I really admired how the new movie sort of had a line where they were like, kryptonite is so rare, like, nobody comes across it these days. And I was like, I like that. They're not going to like lean on kryptonite too much. It's a thing, but not like an easy thing. Bear with me. I'm just blocking out where I want these letters and word balloons to be. Oh, cool. A super chat. You're a beautiful man, Chris. I love you. Thanks for the kind words and the support. DC better be careful. Kids might start eating lead. That's right. They used to jump off their roofs, right, Mike? And now I want to fly like Superman. I want to eat kryptonite like Superman. And I know the kryptonite got turned into lead. I'm going to start eating lead, starting with the paint in this house. Yeah, I talked about that last week when it got announced, but that's true. Daniel Warren Johnson's Kickstarter starts on the 15th, July 15th. Very, very cool. He's probably too busy with Comic-Con coming up. I wonder if he'd consider coming on to promote it. We've had him on a few times before. That would be fun. I will have to see how Big Rig issue 1 by Post Malone is on Wednesday. I mean, keep in mind that it's just his idea, and then he's got like a comic book writer and artist on it, but it might be good. I love in Fast and Furious how that Ludacris goes from being a race promoter to the world's best hacker with no context. He did get quite the bump in being a tech expert. By the time he was in 6, it was like he knew everything. And then they were like, yeah, let's add another hacker as well. What's her name? I forget. They all have these roles. Well, anyway, I don't want to spoil the joke on this. I'll explain it when I'm done drawing. I'll explain the humor. That'll make everybody laugh. Oh, cool. If you could write a spin-off or side run of G.I. Joe focusing on a particular faction or event, what would it be? I'd love a Crimson Guard miniseries. I've never really let myself think about that. I guess I've sort of kept that as something that I just enjoy as compared to like thinking what would I do with it. But let me think for a moment. I think it would be fun to play up some of the sort of intelligence, counterintelligence stuff by just putting somebody on a more long-term mission, like 1 or 2 Joes. Because I've liked some of the stories where like Sneak Peek was embedded in a foreign country, or the one time when they sent Stalker, Snow Job, Quick Kick, and I think Outback on a mission to like a Russian country, and it all went bad, and 3 of them ended up in prison, and the 4th one had to escape and get the rest of the Joes. And even then, like the Joes were like, no, we've officially denied that we've done this mission, so it was up to the ninjas to get them out. But like, I like that. Oh, somebody asked about Dan to Dan. Love it. Episode 2, so much darker than most cartoons or even anime will go. Really dark stuff, but still really cool action and stuff. Let's see, though not necessarily comic related, I've got the Godzilla cookbook, and I've already made my first non-alcoholic drink from it. I call it Godzilla's Red Death Beam. Godzilla versus Destroyer. That's cool. I loved their song Otonoke, but I'm getting a little used to the new one, and I can always pull up the old one. I don't think that there's a trade out yet for Absolute Wonder Woman. I don't think so. Momo is awesome. She's got an attitude, but she can really back it up. I love it. It's that's the only anime show that I'm watching these days. Oh, there is a really good adaptation of a Korean manhwa live action show on Netflix. It's called Mercy for None. I don't know if I already talked about it, but it's kind of like he makes John Wick look like a baby. He's so badass, the main character. We'll move on to Superman with this. Nicholas Holt, best Lex Luthor ever. Do you agree? He's way up there. Is he the best? Let me think this through. I liked him more than Jesse Eisenberg. That's probably towards my worst. Gene Hackman never quite felt like enough of a threat, and his goals was always just getting land. I don't want to think about Kevin Spacey. Who else has been? I like Michael Rosenbaum quite a bit in Smallville. I like him quite a bit. John Cryer played an interesting version, believe it or not. Yeah, I think Nicholas Holt is probably my favorite. I think so. Let's see. Thanks for the super chat. Just read Scott Snyder's both Prime Batman and Absolute Batman with a lot of all-in and ultimate titles. Yeah, he's really good at Batman, no question. Scott has come up with some great stuff for Batman, and I'm really enjoying Absolute Batman right now personally. If we include voice actors, totally respect that. Clancy Brown, incredible. What comic are you lettering? So the last couple weeks I've been creating these silly comic strips like based on like chick tracts, but with Fast and Furious characters and lessons. So that's what I'm doing here. And bear with me. I just need to finish a little bit of a word balloon thing here, and then I can focus a little bit more on both the chat and drawing. It's not great lettering because you really need to be careful and measure stuff out with either a ruler or do it digitally, but it'll be serviceable. And now I'm going to switch over to a brush pen and have a little bit more fun. Absolutely. You know what? I didn't know that Titus Welliver played Luthor in Titans. I didn't watch too much of that. So I really enjoyed Superman. Did everybody enjoy it, or does anybody feel like, no, it was lacking? I thought it was quite well done. In fact, boy, I don't go see a movie more than once in a theater. That's pretty rare for me. But I am really giving some thought to asking Chrissy if she wants to go see it and pushing for it, because I think I'd like to see it again. Haven't seen it yet. 6.5 out of 10. Well, you're a harsh critic. I liked it a lot more than that personally. I won't call it perfect, but for me, I'd probably put it at something like an 8 out of 10. Or, on my scale, 2.5 out of 3 thumbs. Oh, cool. Fury Road was awesome. I would love to see that. Yeah, let's see a matinee. All right. I didn't know you were watching, love. Yeah, I think you'd like it. It's really a cool movie. Trying not to spoil anything. Let's see. I've only seen a few movies in theaters twice. Avengers, Sonic 3, and Prometheus. I can't even think of the last movie that I saw a second time in a theater. Boy. Unless, okay, hold on. Unless you count movies that have been out of theaters for so long, and then I see it in an artsy theater, like, seeing the original Halloween or The Thing or something like that, that's brought back. Like that I've done. That I've done. Okay, I did see Godzilla -1, both the color and the black and white version. So that would be the most recent one that I saw more than once in a theater. Really like that. Wow, Dark Knight you saw 4 times in the theater. I don't blame you. It's good. I just didn't see it more than once. I saw Aliens and Furiosa twice in theaters. I think I saw the Batman 5 times within 1.5 weeks alone. Wow, you must have liked that one. Very cool. I've seen the original version more than once. I don't know if I ever saw the Donner cut. I don't know. Crypto was awesome. A huge, huge plus to the movie. Adds a lot. Adds a lot. Adds humanity. Adds something fun and relatable. Yeah. No, personally, really, really liked Crypto. Big fan. Hot Girl was pretty badass. I think Isabella Merced played her well. I liked when she screamed. She has a pretty big moment in the movie. Not a huge part of the movie, but she has a moment. So it does have a bunch of superheroes in it, but they're not there a whole lot if we're really thinking about it. They're there to move certain things forward functionally. And when they are there, they're pretty entertaining in my opinion. But if you added up like how many minutes is Guy Gardner in the movie, I bet you anything it's maybe a little under 5. You know what I mean? Like it's about Superman and his cast. So no spoilers for anything, but I liked it. I thought Nathan Fillion was really good. I feel like I liked Rachel Brosnahan as Lois. I thought she was Lois had a bunch to do in this movie. As compared to like if you go back to like Man of Steel, Amy Adams had like next to nothing to do. She just didn't. See, that's why I'm going to say like I'll give it like 8 out of 10 instead of 10 out of 10. Did I get emotional? Not as emotional as I have at say some of the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, like especially number 3. Like that one made me emotional. But one of the characters that I really liked in it was I liked their take on Mr. Terrific, which wasn't quite how I see him in the comics, but is also like it was a really good take. It was a really cool take on the character. I liked it. It's not a perfect movie, but it sure is a fun, enjoyable one. And I think it's got a nice message. I really like David Corenswet as Superman. And dude, I don't think the costume like shows it off that much, but that dude got jacked. He's a lot bigger than even Henry Cavill, I think, as far as how big Superman is. And Cavill got pretty big. But like, look at them outside of costume. And Corenswet got big. Sorry, just drawing in a little bit of beard here on Luke Hobbs. But come on, we all just think of him as The Rock, right? Oh, hold on. I think I saw color out of the corner of my eye. Let's take a look. One of the things I disliked about Superman is the use of the same score over and over again, whether in action or emotional scenes. Huh. You might be right. I didn't pick up on that, but I will say I'm not the most attuned to music as compared to some people. I know when I like something. I know when there's cool music. I guess I didn't take a huge notice of the score in this. Maybe that's not a good thing. Yeah, I don't know. My top 3 movies are Man of Steel, Superman 78, and Superman Returns. You haven't seen Superman 2? Superman 2 is fun, dude. That's a good movie. It's a lot better than, I think, both Man of Steel and Superman Returns. I found Superman Returns kind of boring. I didn't feel like Superman did a whole lot in that movie. Man of Steel, I just was like, this isn't Superman to me. He's just so dark and tortured, and I was like, what even is this? It never felt like Superman to me. I know some people like it a lot, and that's totally fair. That's fine. I think that Henry Cavill is a very good actor, and I don't think he got a lot to work with in that movie. But that's just me. I need to start inking a lot faster if I'm going to get this done. I'm having too much fun chatting about Superman. Superman Returns was just sad because we had... Oh, yeah, Cal Penn was a henchman in that, and all of his lines got cut. I totally forgot about that. Brandon Routh looked the part, and he's a fine actor, but I don't think he really had a whole lot to do other than act like a creep that was like always x-raying houses and staring at Lois. I thought it was a very boring Lois. Yeah, I don't remember him having any lines either. I like Superman to, he has his moments where he's, worried about how to handle something. But he's just a fundamentally good person. And I think that, like, there's a bit of this where, Superman, Clark, Kal-El, whatever you want to call him, but, like, he is himself, and he's, like, arguing that kindness is the punk rock of today, because it's not, like, what everybody does. And I like that idea. Kindness is punk rock. That's not the explicit line or anything, but I like the idea of that. But ultimately, I think Superman just needs to be going around doing a bunch of wild stuff, saving people. He's a firefighter that's just always on duty. He's just always going into crazy situations to keep people safe and save as many lives as he can. I think Superman's a cool character. Oh, the animated series is a very good take on Superman, no question there. I didn't see a whole lot of it, to be honest. I think that was mostly when I was in college or like just starting out working, so I didn't see a lot of it, but it is good from what I've seen. Henry Cavill as Superman smiled in that Justice League movie, and it was so creepy because they digitally changed his mouth, and he's like, it was like the Terminator learning to smile. Oh, cool. I always respect when Superman is somebody's favorite character. Superman's cool. there's a lot of good Superman comics out there. I'll say that. I guess he's not necessarily my favorite character, but I've always liked Superman. I've gone through eras of reading a bunch of Superman, backing off, but I do that with a lot of characters, to be fair. And as I get older, I'm a little less interested in reading lots of superhero stuff. I mean, even out of what I read this week, Fantastic Four, Trinity, Radiant Black, Ultimate Spider-Man. I guess that is for superhero books. For now, Sergeant Rock is not moving forward. Yeah. I am curious what kind of stuff they'll do in the DCU moving forward. I don't think it's a bad idea at all to do Supergirl next, especially based on Woman of Tomorrow. That was an awesome, awesome series. Boy, did I like that one. Really helped make her a hero and help delineate what makes her different from Superman. And it's nuanced, but it's fun. It's cool. It's got some great characters in it. Great, great challenges for her. Really, really cool. Oh, I know why his smile looked weird, but thank you for the super chat. Yeah. Yeah, he had a big old mustache for Mission Impossible, and then they decided they needed some reshoots, and he was like, well, I'm available for reshoots, but the movie says I can't shave the mustache, and that's right now my primary role. So they were like, I guess we have to CG it out. It looked weird. Jack Kirby said Superman saved his life. I think it was sort of implied like he was a tough guy, immigrant, maybe Jewish guy from up the block. Yeah, I'll grow a giant handlebar mustache and then CG it out. I'll spend all my money on that. What money? Chris and I had to basically help some family members recently, and so we have no money. We have no money. But it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So if you see me taking the occasional sponsorship or something like that, just understand I got to pay bills. Don't worry, I'll never be pitching you crypto or something really dark like that, but yeah, gotta find ways to make bills. It certainly is not going to be YouTube revenue. Let's see. Let's see. Kind of love the current Supergirl series by Sophie Campbell. That's cool. I like that. You know, it depends on the day right now, Mike. I appreciate you asking. Right now, I would say my pain level is only at about a 5, which I consider pretty darn good. 5 out of 10. I'm drawing. I can use my mouse. Do I feel it? Yeah, but I'm having a good time. I can ignore it. I did take some aspirin right before I did the show. But that's better than taking something stronger. I've got naproxen and stuff like that to take if I need to. So yeah, I feel like it's getting a little better. I really do think it's getting a little better. But I can also have really bad times. And because my shoulder is the frozen shoulder inflammation can sometimes get so much that I'm not using it a whole lot. It hangs there and it creates these muscle knots in my neck and my upper back on this side that can be agony. But there are things that I can do to treat it. Thank you. Of course I can. Well, I couldn't before. Creature Commandos is not bad at all. It's pretty cool. I'm really doing everything I can to not take the medicine unless I am in agony. And then I will say I can notice that it helps. So sometimes I probably should be taking it when I'm starting to notice that it's growing, but I just try to take as little as possible. Oh man, the original Mask, Doug Monkey artwork he was really good right from the beginning. But you're right, like that is a dark ass comic. And if all you know is like the Jim Carrey movie, people are going to be stunned at how dark The Mask is. Big Head, they called him. I've been doing physical therapy for Mike, I don't think I knew that you had frozen shoulder, buddy. Been doing about a 2 to 3 pain all day for months, but I keep tweaking it and it shoots up to an 11. I know what you're talking about because I will sometimes still bump it in a certain way. And oh my God, it's just like, you can't think straight. The pain is so blinding. I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. I did physical therapy the first time I dealt with this, so I'm mainly just doing those exercises at home. I really hope yours goes away. I'll tell you this, Mike. Ultimately, the thing that like made me get over it was talking to orthopedics and getting a shot of, I believe it was cortisone, like right into the joint, which first they put fluid in to push the joint apart as much as possible, which killer pain. And then they use a humongous needle to get it really deep in. But by just a little while after I got that shot, the pain was gone and my flexibility returned. So if you can, like, look into that. Here's the thing. Once you do it, you basically can't do it again for at least 6 months or something, because it's like really intense. But I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. That, like, frozen shoulder is stunningly painful. I feel terrible, Mike. I just didn't know that you were also dealing with that, or I would have been giving you my sympathies earlier, because it's really tough to deal with. It's got such an innocent sounding name, like almost a goofy name, but it's really, really painful. Anyway, sorry, I'm talking about myself too much now. What else? Is there any other comic book show on? Like I said, there's Mercy for None. I haven't finished Ironheart yet. I'm up through episode 4, and I actually like it. But I just haven't had much free time. I've just been working. So I haven't finished Ironheart. What else is there comic book or wise for movies or TV shows right now? I can't think of one. Yeah, Superman's the biggest. I'm pretty excited for Fantastic Four. I think that could be very, very cool. I've always liked the Fantastic Four. So, oh, that's true. Revival. I still haven't seen that yet. No. Do people like it? I would like to see that. Yeah, Ironheart was. Ooh. It's true. We are thinking about that. I also saw Jurassic World. What's it called? Rebirth? I think it's called Rebirth. I didn't think I was going to get around to seeing that one, but I went at like 11:40 at night, which meant I didn't get home until something like 2 in the morning, because it's a long movie, and there's all these ads, beforehand. But it was pretty good. Maybe second best out of the Jurassic Park World series. Yeah, that should be fun. Oh, major bummer. I remember getting that off the shelves. It was a fun thing. That was where I was like, oh, I don't just like Doug Monkey art. I love him. I've heard conflicting things on Old Guard too. I saw the first Old Guard and thought it was pretty good, but I'm seeing some people that say, yeah, cool, I liked Old Guard too, and some people that say it's not as good. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I also saw the first episode. Chrissy and I are still watching season 1 of the One Piece anime, and when I get to a certain point, we'll go back and watch the whole live action show. We want to see the anime first. I don't know what that was too. No, I'm not going to watch Sandman season 2. It just I can't put out of my head Neil Gaiman, so I'm just yeah. Oh, you were talking about Old Guard 2, weren't you? I heard it's got more bad reviews, yeah. They had a crossover comic, and I reviewed that as an exclusive for my patrons last month. I didn't feel that I had quite enough to say about it as like a full episode, just sort of like some light thoughts. But I guess I did like about a 30-minute episode for my patrons, talking both about that specific crossover as well as, just sort of that era of crossovers for Marvel and DC in general. So, $2 a month, you can get access to all that if it interests you. Release it to the public. No, I got to make exclusives so that I can make money. If I gave it all away for free, I couldn't make any money. Sorry. Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you. I was pretty happy with how I did the All-Star Superman episode. That's free to everybody. Yeah, it's a plug to sign up for Comic Tropes on Patreon. $2 a month isn't too much to ask, I don't think. I know it's not everybody can afford it, but got to do something for the people that support it and make it possible for me to do the show for everyone. They're like my producers. This is fun just to like, you guys, anybody else like inking for fun? It's really relaxing. You don't have to think too much because as long as you've laid out your own pencils. Boy, do I just find it really good for my mental health to just noodle away at like this stuff. I do enjoy doing slightly more detailed stuff usually, like messing around with textures, and this is more of a comic strip, so I'm kind of simplifying a lot of it. But it's very relaxing to do inking. Thank you. I've got a couple new comedy openings coming up. I'm proud of it. That's exciting. Oh, cool. I love hearing news like that. Like if somebody picks up a comic for the first time based on a review or recommendation or goes back to it, that means a lot. Thank you. Yeah, Lazarus is the new anime. I've heard a few good things. Do you read R. Crumb anymore? Boy, I've read a good amount of Crumb, but have I read it lately? No, probably not lately. I will do an episode someday about him. I really will. Let's see. Can we get a sample of Comic Meat Carver Guy voice? Comic Meat Carver Guy. Is that one that I've done before? Comic Meat Carver Guy. What is that? I'm thinking this through, how I would approach that. give me some details there, the Beowulf. What is that? He's both is he carving up comics? What is he doing? All right, here I go. I don't know exactly, but hey, what's the matter, you? You want some gabagool or you want some Wonder Woman? I'm gonna give you some gabagool for sure, but are you gonna take some Wonder Woman with that? Oh, the old country buffet guy. That's the comic meat cart. I appreciate you stopping by. Would you like to talk about Fast and Furious tonight or All-Star Superman? What's that? You want me to carve the meat? Oh, I guess so. Would you prefer the ham or would you like to sit down and talk about Metamorpho? He's got a really catchy song from his animated cartoon in the 60s. Have you decided what dessert you'll have? I think I'll have some Krispy Kreme donuts based on Superman. It's filled with white cream. Sorry that it took me a minute. No, man, this is my Bobby Kirkman voice. And by the way, I only go by Robert, so don't you say no Bobby. Metamorpho, Metamorpho. Does anybody else know the Metamorpho song? It is a banger. Metamorpho, Metamorpho. The CGI, there's not really much CGI. There's some very basic green screening. I think somebody else asked that, and my answer is yes. I can understand why you don't want those Krispy Kreme donuts. The Superman's filled with white cream. What's that about? All right. Do you get kickback from KK? What's KK? I can't think of what... Oh, Krispy Kreme? No, it was just in the news this week. All right. I don't know if that's even a good impression, but that's how I interpret that guy. All right. Have you tried the lasagna? It's my favorite. I love doing voices, that's for sure. Should have just started a show instead of about comics, just me doing annoying voices. Have you read the super chats? They're my favorite. Let's see, Carter. I usually watch the show at work after it's live because I sleep early. Just wanted to drop in and say thanks for all the entertainment. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much. That's really, really kind of you. Thank you. I'm glad that you get something out of it. I want it to be good. Oh, yeah, that live action Power Rangers movie. Well, it's all live action, isn't it? But whatever, the reboot or something. Rita Repulsa was like finding some sort of hidden power that was built under a Krispy Kreme. So Krispy Kreme was like central to the plot of the movie, the same way that Popeyes was central to the live action Supergirl movie. Have I seen Balloon Boy by L.M. Noiseland? No, I don't know what that is. Balloon Boy. Oh, Red Letter Media? I don't think so. I don't know what that is. Ooh, about to be medical debt free. Yeah, it's I've been there. I have been there. It took me many years to pay off my medical bills for daring to get COVID back in, 2020? And just barely survived, to be honest. And came out of that with about 20,000 in bills. So I feel for you there. But congratulations on getting to where you're at. A music video Mike did with Noiseland. I don't know Noiseland, but I'll look this up because I love Red Letter Media generally. I think that they're pretty funny. Red Letter Media's comment section makes me uncomfortable. I've never read their comments. They can be sexist and anti-woke. I bet. I can barely read my own comments most of the time, let alone anywhere else. It's not fun. People get so mean and so angry in comments section for just about anything. It's not a fun time. I try to avoid comments because people are just mean. And I don't get it. I think generally the comments on this channel, maybe because it's smaller than my other one, tend to be kinder from what I've seen, which I appreciate. But yeah, a lot of times on the main Comic Tropes channel, I can't read the comments. They're just, some of them are just too mean. Not always to me even, but like they're just too mean. I try not to be mean either. I think about like, if is what I'm posting really worth sharing? Like, is it something that would like impact somebody, and would it impact them in a positive way? Because I'm not generally going to like leave a comment on a big channel that like critiques something, because first of all, they're not even going to see it. You know what I mean? And second, is it just going to create an argument, or is it something that like can make somebody think about something positive? I don't know. Hey, Randy. Thank you. Hey, Randy. Help me out here. You recently got distribution for Altruist Comics, I know, for like Bullet Adventures. And so there are some order codes, but remind me, how did you do that through like Massive Indies, or did you get like your own distribution directly? Like, I'm just curious, like who I know you did, and I don't remember because I'd already supported your books on Kickstarter, so I have them, but I was really impressed with that. Oh, you did do it through Massive Indies. That's really, really interesting. Okay. So if you guys look up Altruist Comics, or specifically one of the books Randy does calls Bullet Adventures, you can now order physical copies. So that would be through Lunar, basically, because Massive works with Lunar, right? Hey, it's my friend Dave. West Coast Avengers also does direct edition. Nice to see you, man. You have to order them. Like a store could order it, but they'd have to know to order it. Yeah, that's really cool, man. Congratulations. That's great that you're still pushing your books out there and growing and trying new things like that. I really admire that a lot. Indie comics is a tough competitive game, and I do really like Randy's book that he publishes, Bullet Adventures. I think it's got good art. I think it's got a good story. He's got a great team on it. They keep churning them out. Yeah. Yep. The Rock appears in this week's Fast Tracts. In fact, I should really focus up. Dave, I work this Wednesday again. Sometimes Dave and I will get coffee because we don't live too far apart, and it's easy enough to meet at the the comic store and then get some coffee or something, catch up and just talk comics or YouTube and things like that, which is really nice. It's always nice. Like, YouTube is such a weird environment. It's really nice to talk to anyone else that does it regularly. But unfortunately, I do work again this Wednesday, so I'm not going to be able to. I'm just putting it out there. I'd love to see you again, and I work Tuesday and Wednesday, so unfortunately, another week. I think the third one in a row where I've been working a Wednesday. Did I tell you guys that like 4 weeks ago or something like that, Dave and I were having coffee and we met Ben Gibbard and who's the bassist? I can't remember now. Anyway. Yeah, it's called Coffee with Chris in Comic Book Shops. And basically I drive my car into a comic book store, and then as the dust settles, I interview a comedian. That's my show. Coffee with Chris in a comic shop. I did mention it. Okay, never mind. Nick Hammer. Yes. Nick Hammer. How about a commission for The Undertaker? What would The Undertaker even want? Do you think he'd want to like a picture of The Rock?
Hey, Chris, can I get a commission of The Rock looking as handsome as possible? I really value our days wrestling together. And I'd love...
This is my Undertaker impression, by the way, apparently.
And I'd love to see a really nice picture of The Rock hanging over my mantle.
Yes, I'm often dressed in a hot dog outfit. I crash my hot dog car into the comic shop, and then I get out and I go, who did this? Does anybody know who crashed that hot dog car in here? God bless Tim Robinson. And if you haven't watched it yet, you really need to get on Netflix and watch his show. What's his sketch comedy show again? I Think You Should Leave. Oh, so good.
No, the Kingpin sounds a bit deeper, Vanessa. Did I ever tell you that when I was a young man, my father would beat me about the head?
See, I did something different than just repeat the same old joke. I already did the joke where he sings the lyrics or says the lyrics to My Chemical Romance. Yeah, of course I saw Friendship. It was pretty good. It's the Tim Robinson humor, and you can sort of tell that it was, I think, written for him, but it wasn't written by him. So it's not perfect, but it was interesting. It was interesting. Detroiters. Ugh. Yes, if you can get both Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson together for anything, it's good. It's damned good. I recently reread Old Man Logan. Is that the most violent book Marvel has ever released outside of Ennis Punisher? It is violent, and I would argue nihilistically bleak. But I don't think it's the most violent they've done, especially now that they do these Red Band books. I think that I don't know.
And Vanessa, that's how I grew to hate the sousaphone.
I've been working on a new impression, folks. Do you want to taste? Do you want to taste it? I'll see if anyone wants this, or if they're like, please, God, no. Please, dear God, no more impressions. We've heard your presidents of the United States. We've heard your kingpin. It's garbage. It's flat out garbage. Oh, okay. Yes. What have I unleashed? Love to hear your work in progress. Okay. Okay. Let me think. Well, how would I set this up? It was a Monday night, not unlike many other Mondays, except for one key difference. There was a murder. And in this town, murder was not normal. Normal would have been Dave and Edgar and all their friends meeting for coffee. No one would be meeting for coffee anymore, because it turns out that Dave murdered Edgar. Edgar was trying to make a comic book about his life, but Dave decided that wasn't going to fly. I don't know where I'm going to use it, but that's sort of my 48 hours intro voice. You know, they just like, I love how they set it up like it's going to be normal, and then they talk about like the most bleak, dark thing in the world. They're like, what month are we in at this point? We're in July. Most times, July in Seattle isn't too hot, but this day would definitely bring the heat, especially for one Richard Tyronson, because Richard was wanted for murder. Richard had butchered his local butcher, and the blood was everywhere. Richard would not be getting away. They've got a way of talking. Keith Morrison goes a bit more like, oh no. Killed him. I can't, you know what? I was about to do it, but all I'd be doing is Bill Hader's impression of Keith Morrison, which is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Killed him with kindness? No, I mean, I killed him. Oh, no. Yeah. Why are murder shows so popular? Is it that it's like watching a horror, but it's even more in control? I feel like they're scarier because it's real. I don't know. But murder documentaries and murder weekly shows are just really popular. I find them mostly disturbing. Sometimes I like a podcast where there's closure, like that the person was caught. I don't like open-ended things like that just go, and the Waynesboro killer was never found. Oh, Bill Hader's one of the best. One of the best. Some say you can kill with kindness, but in this small town, the killer used hot dogs. Specifically, hot dogs. Wasn't a typical way of killing, but nothing the Keith Neiman did was typical. He trained his dogs to absorb incredible amounts of heat. Had them sent into local butcher shops where they'd make the customers get uncomfortable and leave to get a bit of cold air. Unfortunately, there would be no cold air for Victoria Morrison. I can't think of good names. It's something basic, the stakes and characters easily established. People like life and death stories. That's why cop and doctor and lawyer shows are always popular. But Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Is it's kind of easy to grasp, and it sort of like makes it normalizes it a little, which makes it a little less scary. Even though it could be about like, Bobby Kirkman didn't really know his next door neighbor, and he would go on to wish that he'd never met him. Except that wish was never heard, because by the time he was wishing it, Bobby Kirkman was dead. His neighbor, Tonison Moore, had murdered him. Musical guest, Ian Cherry. And your host, Neil Patrick Harris. See, some of you are getting your names used tonight. You didn't expect any of that. But that's what happens when I go down an impression hole and don't have a script, and I have to improvise. I haven't trained any of my improv muscles in a long, long time. Oh, that reminds me, my friend Ken Jeong had a birthday yesterday. I think he's 56 already. I was saying that in college I did stand-up. I also did a little bit of improv, including with Ken Jeong, who's gone on to have a pretty successful career as an actor in Hollywood. A career that was owed to one Kirkman Robertson. Hello, it's me, Tony Tonison, the piano salesman. I travel around tickling the ivory keys and selling them. I didn't sign up for singing. Nobody did. This is terrible. Let's see. I think the U.S. sensationalizes murder in the news, so it's reflected in everything we consume. That is pretty accurate. Yeah, I'm old enough, folks, that I grew up in an era where TV literally had a time when it stopped broadcasting. You get to 1 a.m., they'd play the national anthem, and it cut to static. It was just white noise until something like 6 or 7 a.m., and then like the morning shows would come on. But there was a time when TV did not broadcast for 24 hours. That's how old I am. I'm so old. I'm so old. The dinosaurs used to chase me on the way to school. It was more like 2 or 3 here. The late night movie, then Oh Canada. It would depend on the channel, to be clear. But yeah. Yeah. Now everything broadcasts 24 hours. But there was a time when it just wasn't needed. Well, I'm so old. Did I used to count my age as the Ice Age? What I'm saying. Um, 72 next week. I'm feeling a bit verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm just doing other people's impressions now. This show is degenerated. We're at like half of the usual viewers by the end here. I'm almost done with the show, But yeah, the end of the show gets weird. This is where I try out whatever I wouldn't try out on the show in the earlier hours. The show used to be pretty much always 2 hours, and now that I've been enjoying drawing these silly little fast tracts, that they're pushing out to 3 hours at a time. 1 hour of me just talking nonsense and drawing this stuff. We're almost done. I'm just gonna block out a little bit for the panels, and I'll read it to you, and we'll call it a successful night, I think. Before I go home and get murdered. It was a day not unlike any other, except for one thing. There was a lot of murder happening. But one man didn't want to get murdered. Unfortunately, he was the one who would find that he was murdered. Oh, fast tracts, you fascinate me these days. I don't suppose any of you ever read my old Star Trek Problems comic series back in the day. Before I ever did a YouTube show, I was chronically online with two things. I had a podcast about TV that I did with friends, but I also had a website called The Robot's Pajamas that I would write and edit for. And so for years, I was putting out several pieces a day on there, and that included doing a bunch of comics. And I would make a series of sort of jokes about the ridiculous parts of Star Trek. And it was done with love. But yeah, there was a comic I did over 100 of them. They were called whatchamacallit? They were called Star Trek Problems. All right, so here, let's read you this silly little comic and see what there is to say. So, this is from the Book of Corona, 433. Toretto, for this mission, we'll need a confidence man, a tech wizard, a master spy, 2 of the best drivers, and a talker. Yeah, we all drive cars. I probably could have done the timing on that to make it a little funnier, but I'm tired. That's the joke. That's the joke, folks. Oh, yeah, I have to give it a title. Fast. See how fast that is? Tracts. Number 3 by Chris. And then I dated, I guess, 7/14/25. There we go. A silly little fast tract. I had some fun. I had some good times. My Corona. Anyway, that's what I did. That's the joke. That's what you get for the show. Hey, there's some gabagool on the way out. What's the matter with you? You ain't want some gabagool? Then I woke up the next day and had some gabagool. What to talk about? I'll just plug again that I have a new Comic Tropes episode out, newer, on All-Star Superman. If you are on my Patreon, you can now vote on what your exclusive episode for this month will be. Voting for that goes for a few more days, and then I'll make an exclusive episode. And I encourage you to check out the Supergirl movie review that's on this channel that got uploaded a couple days ago. That's Jim Mafood and myself talking about the 1984 live-action Supergirl movie. Oh my God, was anyone even trying with this thing? What a cast. Top to bottom, great cast. Helen Slater's a very good Supergirl. They've got Peter O'Toole, Mia Farrow, Faye Dunaway. Like, these are very good actors. It had something like a $35 million budget in 1984. That was plenty of money. Terrible movie. Script doesn't make any sense. All right. I am going to call it a night. I had a great time with all of you. Thank you so much for your super chats, for your jokes, for your comments and questions. It helps make the show a lot more interesting. But I'm going to call it now. That said, I think that I will have a new Comic Tropes up this week. Before the weekend, I should have a new episode up. And then it's just a decision between whether I jump from that one straight to an episode about Ramona Fradon, an artist I really like, who co-created Metamorpho, among other things, or if I figure out something small I could do for sort of a Fantastic Four episode. I mean, that would be smart, but I don't know. I don't have a great idea on what I want to talk about for Fantastic Four that I haven't talked about already is all. So we'll see. If I come up with a great idea, I'll do it, but I don't know if I'll come up with a great idea with the limited time I have left. Thank you all. I had a great time. I'll end it with this. Double salute. See you next Monday. Keep reading comics. Bye, everybody.